Reveille, donks.
Look at us now, tip to tip. This is our life. This is our passion. That's the spirit we bring to this show.
I'm Luke Thomas.
I'm Brian Campbell.
This is Morning Kombat. Hey, probably not showered and certainly underslept. Morning Kombat is back in your life. It's LT, Luke Thomas, BC, Brian Campbell. Hey, thanks for joining us. What a show we have for you today, BC, right? First of all, Patchy Mix will be here in about an hour, but we've got so much to get to. Conor McGregor, part owner of BKFC. UFC 301 is this weekend. Canelo is back. Oh, by the way, we have a little bit of, I think, a mini MK announcement of what's going to happen on Friday. It's a lot going on. Hi, everyone. Welcome on in. Hi, BC. How are you?
I'm excited. I'm both blessed and highly favored, right? Shoes Dior.
I gotta tell you,
suits tailored, right?
I gotta tell you, I'm looking at you. You don't look like the highly favored type to me.
No, but this Ryan Garcia victory lap has been interesting. More to come on Have You Seen This Shit? But yeah, we have a fantastic show today, man. We are going to set the stage for 301, Canelo versus Mungia. Talk about Mike Perry's, once again, his breakthrough combat sports pay-per-view star victory at the old BKFC. I'm fired up. I'm ready. I got pit stains to show you the passion I'm bringing to this operation. Luke, also, they have a rule in that really nice bathroom next to our studio. It's a no pooping rule. Mm-hmm. You have violated that rule before. Did you violate that rule today?
I did not violate the rule today, but I've definitely violated that rule before.
You always wonder, like, what had to happen for a rule like that to be created?
I just got to tell you, if you tell me there's a no pooping bathroom, it's going to require my utmost restraint to not defecate in the sink.
Okay, all right. That's shop style almost, right? Yeah, just pissing wherever.
I mean, how long is the show? 2 minutes. 2 minutes and we're doing skits and bits.
Yeah, there it is. There it is. But hey, shout out to Meadowlark Studios. How about our guy Ken on audio and the behind the glass? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Long Island Luke is here. Jake Von Amsterdam is here.
Jake Von Amsterdam is here, BC. But if you could tell me what he's doing, because I, for the life of me, can't figure it out. You know what he's not doing? Being helpful.
He's just making art. All right, he's just making
collecting
art.
Unemployment is what he's doing.
Did you want to talk about this week? Because we'll be on the road.
So let's talk about this. We're here today. We're going to get to the whole show here in just a minute. By the way, if you're watching on YouTube, thank you so much everywhere you're watching this from. Thumbs up and hit subscribe. But yes, I mentioned we have a sort of a mini MK announcement. Everyone's asking, hey, when are you guys going to be doing Friday shows again? Well, on a permanent basis, I don't quite know the answer to that. But on a this week basis, the answer is, of course, this week. We are going to be going to Las Vegas on Wednesday for Canelo versus Mungia. We're not going to Brazil for 301. Don't kill us.
Although, big Steve Urseg fan over here. Huge.
I actually like the main event for 301. I'm not one of these haters, but okay. So we're going to have, obviously, some Radio Row coverage.
Thursday, we're going to be doing a live show on the MK YouTube channel from Radio Row. Big time guests coming your way. And talk about Friday, man.
Friday, we'll be in the Blue Wire Studios down there in Vegas as well. We're doing a Friday MK edition.
With a very special guest getting set up. I'm not saying that the guest won't be there, but it's big enough where, like, I'll promote it when this guest walks in the room.
Okay, you know what I'm saying?
Okay. Big guest Friday in our live show.
But yeah, we're gonna have basically 3 shows this week. We used to have 3 shows every week.
Well, is it 3 or is it 4? Because there's some original 1.0 RSD magic being talked about. Okay?
There is also some of that as well.
Brought to you by MedMen, whether they sponsor us or not, right?
Dude, they close at 7 p.m. Who the fuck does that?
Wait, we saw Bob Arum there at like 1 a.m. that time.
No. It must have been, well, that or they've changed their hours, because we walked there and they were closed. And I was like, well, I guess I have to go to the sketchy Arby's next door and get a beef and cheddar and then get stabbed. What's 24/7? Okay, when I want your opinion, I will solicit it.
Yes, thank you. Long Island Luke, by the way, hosts a UFC betting show on YouTube. Never told us.
100%. He owes money to a bookie. And if he ever comes in here with crutches or some kind of neck brace, it's because he's gotten sideways.
What's it called again? Main Card Minute. You can find that on YouTube with Long Island Luke. His father, by the way, from Australia. Not sure if I've ever...
You've mentioned that a time or two. Yeah. By the way, we like responsible gambling, all that fun stuff, having a good time with it, doing it the right way. Also, a reminder, DraftKings Network, we're going to be on at 5 p.m. 5 p.m. in the East. So for all the folks who catch us on DraftKings Network, thank you. BC, very quickly, did you have a good weekend?
You know, I did. I had a great weekend. My wife made me dig about 9 holes in the ground to put some plants in. So it was, nice spring cleaning weekend. Went to the kids' track meet. Yeah, life is good,
Okay. It was Tuki's birthday this past weekend.
What's the age now?
She's 5. Can you believe it? She is 5.
What a gift from
above.
It is a gift.
It is a gift.
What did you guys do? Did you do
So she went on vacation recently with her mom. They went to Colombia to go see all their family. And
It's also your wife, just for legal purposes.
well, yeah, fair enough. But what I meant to say was her family, unbeknownst to me, threw her a gigantic party in Colombia with a unicorn cake and all. I mean, the whole
a
bit.
mini quinceañera?
You mean quinceañera?
Or Chichen Itza, either or.
Or Chichen Itza, yes. No, but it was still a fun kids party. There was a whole thing, tons of gifts. It was great. So I was like, we're not going to do 2 of these. I'm not going to do another one. You get the one. So we took her to Six Flags. We took her to Six Flags.
I thought you were going to say Chuck E. Cheese. Six Flags is better.
We took her to Chuck E. Cheese and then we just left her.
We just lost her in the balls.
No,
yeah.
we took her to Six Flags and we went on a day where it was a little bit chilly. There was no lines. First of all, she loved it. Oh my God, she had the time of her life. I sent you the picture.
Yeah.
She was, you know.
Mouth breathing like a Thomas.
Like a Thomas. So it was a great time. It was a great time.
Quickly as well, your merch options if you want to wear that beautiful bomber jacket.
Morningcombat.store, the one I've got on here. We've got a lot more coming. Live 10, you get 10% off. I don't even know if that works anymore.
I don't even know if RJ Dunkel Gangbanger is employed, but we talked to him and there's some designs on the way. All right?
I think he's employed on RedTube. That's where I think he's employed. You know what I'm saying? All right.
Okay.
Okay. Well, with that in mind, by the way, we are going to talk about this weekend's UFC fights that happened that were fine.
Unless we run out of time, I'm hoping for the latter.
They were fine. They were nothing great. They were nothing terrible. They were just there.
They weren't as good as the BKFC card or the Golden Boy card, to be honest with you.
That is actually true. That is actually true. All right. With that in mind, BC, let's get going with what I am very surprised to say is the biggest news of the weekend, or certainly the one. If it's not the biggest, it is the most interesting to me. Let's start with Conor McGregor and BKFC. It turns out now that Conor McGregor is a part owner of the Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship. That's a real thing. I've got a question for you, but first things first, we've got a video with the promoter of BKFC, Dave Feldman, announcing, or at a bare minimum, talking more about this. Let's see it.
We've got the biggest announcement in the BKFC history we're about to make, so let's make that announcement.
What's up, Knucklemania? The notorious Conor McGregor here. Ladies and gentlemen, the huge announcement that I have for you today. Conor McGregor, myself, and McGregor Sports and Entertainment is now an owner of Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship. Welcome to the big leagues. David Feldman, baby, we did it.
David, what does this mean, man? Cyrus warned us about dropping some news. Didn't see that one coming. What does this mean for BKFC?
I mean, look, you got the biggest guy in all of combat sports right now as a part owner of our company. I think it's just going to move the needle tremendously. We're going to do a lot of big things. We're going to open up a lot of new markets.
Okay, we can stop it there. You get the idea. BC, very basic question. What does Conor McGregor and BKFC get out of this?
I think they both actually get a lot. Now, it's surprising, right? On its surface, Conor's still a active UFC, active-ish, but he'll be back, right? International Fight Week, June 29th, the long-awaited return. But we did see him in person at their previous biggest card ever, which also had Mike Perry in the main event. And they even got it to the level, as we talked about, of getting Conor in the circle against Mike Perry and facing off. Obviously, a dream matchup that's not going to happen anytime soon. But for Conor, look, this is a nice leverage play, is it not? Right? He's getting toward the end of his career. We don't know his true contract status here. We know he's got at least a few more UFC ones left in him, but we know he wants leverage, as always, as a smart businessman. I wonder if this is the beginning of that, a nice opportunity for him to take his brand, which has been doing well from the standpoint of whiskey and beer and assault. No, and some of the other things that he's really
Court
into.
cases.
Yeah, in that regard. But look, when we talk about the ideas, and we will talk about it, of like what is the biggest opponents that BKFC could put in there against Perry, or who are the biggest signings they could do, I wonder if this is the beginning of bridging that gap. We did see David Feldman in a meeting with Dana White recently, and you hear the talk afterwards, and nothing, according to Feldman, was signed or anything, but it was just we're starting to get to this level, let's meet. He did talk about the idea of wanting to be on UFC Fight Pass potentially one day. There were rumors of, would UFC ever purchase it? I'm not saying it's going in that direction, but I wonder if this starts that road to the idea of not just Conor, but the future of UFC saying, we know when our fighters still have brand value, but they're aging, they want to go somewhere else, they want to make a lot of money. That's why we always said, instead of power slap, Dana, how about you Zuffa Boxing back together and actually give your fighters a chance to go somewhere and make money. I wonder if this is sort of a long play beginning on that. But short term, obviously, Conor's brand, his mouthpiece ability, showing up at events is going to be a big thing for BKFC. And on the flip side, I wonder if it continues to give Conor an opportunity to flex a little bit back at the UFC when it comes to negotiations and when it comes to the idea of he hasn't hidden. He loves the bare knuckle game. He wants to compete in it. It's rare to see a fighter in their prime sort of do something this big in this crossover level, but I am interested to see where it goes. The only thing I want to bring up is Feldman said after the event that he used to say to his wife that he dreamed of getting a phone call from Conor McGregor one day. Now he can't get Conor to stop calling him. So it's going to be interesting if Conor's going to be able to put his stamp anywhere on this brand. And whether you like it or not, they are going up. They are going up at the moment. They are building towards something.
They have a unique product relative to other competitors or other promotions in the space. But we're asking, like, what do they get out of it? I'll never forget, it was here in New York City, UFC 205, when Conor McGregor laid waste to Eddie Alvarez, and he had both belts, and he did a scrum backstage with the media.
I was there in the hallway.
Right, and he made it very explicit. He now, at that time, what he said he wanted was shares of the company. He wanted to become a part owner. That was what he wanted. And the UFC never, ever, I don't think, got close to being in a position to give him some, but owning part of the combat sports space, not just his own career, but some of the infrastructure, some of the other places out there, getting an ownership stake in that has clearly been on his mind for some time. The interesting part for me about this one is you look at that, you've got Conor McGregor BKFC. Don't forget, it's a much smaller deal, but you've actually got Francis Ngannou and PFL Middle East North Africa, PFL MENA, Central PFL Africa, whatever. No, he would be Africa because the MENA is a separate one. So he would have part of that one as well. And so you see these very, very elite fighters who have been able to change the system a little bit for their own benefit or take advantage of certain opportunities, get this ownership stake kind of thing going forward. I don't know how much that will be repeated over time because it does feel like a very case-by-case basis. It's interesting that neither of those guys changed the way that fighters got paid. They just changed the way they got paid rather than making a big dent in the industry at large.
Well, Francis has hopes of doing that.
They changed it for themselves, which is not nothing. I mean, that's a big thing, but they didn't go to Capitol Hill and lobby for the Ali Act. They didn't go and really help out with the antitrust trial. They said, I'm going to get mine in a different way.
Okay, but let's put some respect. Put some respect on Francis. I don't know if the PFL thing's going to work out, but he's now giving fighters a seat at the table in a sense. So that it's a little more than what you said.
I don't know how much of that is symbolic. I mean, we're saying it means a lot. We don't really know how much.
He's never fought for them yet. So
right. So
knows?
What does it really mean?
Yeah.
But the thing I wanted to say was BKFC. BKFC is still trying to figure out what it wants. Because they did a show not too long ago. There was a story in Front Office Sports about this, where they had like an avowed white supremacist competing on their card who was, dapping up the Aryan Brotherhood. It's like, guys, if you want to be mainstream, this is absolutely not how to do it. However, getting into business with Conor McGregor, I'm not saying he doesn't have a bit of a bad boy image in certain parts of the sporting community, but inside the combat sports space, he's one of the biggest names you could possibly have.
Sure.
And so inside the combat sports space, it's somewhat mainstreamizes, such as that's a word, that particular brand.
100% it does. So I wanted to ask you specifically about that point. Like, you get Conor McGregor involved as part owner, people suddenly think, oh, UFC is involved. Are we getting closer to the idea of what I teased off the top, that UFC one day could get involved? I mean, look, they got big power slap plans and we clown or whatever at times, but they seem to have a goal that they're going after. But the majority of ex-UFC fighters, thankfully, are not going to power slap, at least not yet. But outside, they're going to crossover boxing or they're going to BKFC. So do you think this gets them closer, if you're BKFC, to the idea of maybe partnering on a full-time basis, or even on, okay, you have guys under contract? Think Jorge Masvidal, who UFC just allowed to get 3 boxing fights under his belt. He's going to do Nate Diaz 1. He's got other plans after that. What if you said instead, come to BKFC, where we as UFC are part owners or what have you? It could give Conor extended life when his MMA value is over. It could give a lot of these guys extended life.
What value does the UFC get out of partnering with BKFC? I'm not challenging you. I'm actually just wondering.
I would only say it would avoid, in theory, in some ways, the fact that fighters tried to do what Nate Diaz did, which is really hard to legitimately fight out your contract to become a free agent where you still have a certain amount of value that you can go elsewhere and bring pay-per-views that people need to see. Not saying this Masvidal one is going to blow up, but like the Jake Paul fight was a big fight, right? It was a big event. It mattered. It was a rival to the UFC. In some ways, they could close down on that, especially if they wanted to bring it into UFC Fight Pass, especially if they wanted to do that. I'm just asking you if you think that this is the beginning of that, and if you think that the UFC would have any interest in that from the standpoint of, if we're going to lose our fighters anyway when they still have name value, maybe they're no longer fit to compete for UFC titles or even really still be in MMA, which is it's a very hard thing to keep the training up. We always hear fighters talk about that. Mm-hmm. But there is new life in bare knuckle fighting in your later years. You can extend your brand power.
I mean, what I would say on this is we have seen a picture that Dave Feldman posted on social media where he was meeting with Dana White. And so there is certainly a possibility. I mean, I've lived through I lived through the UFC acquiring WEC, WEF. I lived through them acquiring Strikeforce. I lived through them acquiring all the contracts essentially from Pride. I lived through them making these big acquisitions. There is certainly a potential remember, like BKFC it's getting a lot of some boxers, but it's getting mostly MMA fighters or a lot of former MMA fighters. So it still seems more MMA adjacent. And so if you group it in that, it's very different from one. It's very different than PFL. It's a true and genuine alternative in that way. And we know obviously Jorge Masvidal has his own brand, but that still doesn't seem as far along as BKFC is, certainly for better or for worse. And so for those reasons, I think that there might be a case for them to want to acquire them if they want to get into that business. But like, here's the thing. I'm happy to not really bring up fighter pay anymore to the extent it's not really relevant day to day, week to week, or month to month.
Is that because fighters don't care about it?
They don't.
And only us media do, apparently.
They do not care about being paid what they get paid. However, what I will not tolerate is the idea that there is no downside to monopoly. This idea you're talking about, like, oh, here's why they might want to align with BKFC. They don't need them for that at all. With the tolling provisions that they've added, with the ability to not join a class action lawsuit, with how long it takes to get out of a contract if they want to keep you in, with any number of different things. We'll see what this non-compete ban by the FTC does. Probably nothing, but I guess we'll have to see. But for the time being, they don't need BKFC for that. They've got the whole thing controlled. And so I'm happy to figure out what the real course of action is, potentially for BKFC long term. And it could include the UFC. But it's not going to include the UFC because they need them as a backstop for aging fighters. That's
fair. That's
100%
fair.
They don't need them.
Obviously, the biggest winner seems to be David Feldman and the BKFC brand, which still has certain connotations surrounding him. I mean, they got guys named Bobo O'Bannon fighting. You know what I mean? Like, it certainly still has this Wyoming backyard farm kind of feel, or Florida swamp feel to it in a lot of ways. So this gives them credibility of McGregor. What do you think it does for McGregor, though?
Okay, so again, he definitely wanted a piece of something. Why he wanted this one more than the other one, I think he feels like it's the most genuine alternative. Like, for example, if you're McGregor, getting into the boxing space, it's going to be tough, especially now with the Saudis doing everything they're doing. So who are you going to partner with there? And who's going to sell you a steak anyway, right? So, I mean, MMA fans don't want to hear this, but Conor McGregor is not held in high esteem in boxing circles, from what I can tell. Fair or unfair?
Fair.
Yeah. Okay. So that avenue is closed. And if you're Conor, do you really want to put in a bunch of money into one championship or PFL, which, by the way, is technically kind of a competitor, sort of, to the UFC? It seems like you don't want to do that. But here you've got something that is kind of UFC approved, that is not really in the MMA lane. We know it's MMA adjacent, but it's not the MMA lane. It is a genuine alternative in the marketplace, whether you like that alternative or not. I sort of see what he's kind of eyeing there. It's what's a safe place for me to invest that won't cause ire in other places, that also has a chance at being a real potential product long term. It sounds weird to say, oh, BKFC is the best choice. But when you look around a little bit, it does make some sense as an acquisition if you really believe this alternative that's a safe investment has a promising future. I don't know.
What do we guess is Conor's actual involvement here? Will he become... Think of the role Oscar De La Hoya plays with Golden Boy and in the boxing promoting space. He's a fast-talking, gets your attention, former fighter, can sell fights, certainly, love him or hate him, and same thing about Conor in that regard. Do you think Conor wants that role? Do you think there's room for him in that role?
I think it's largely ceremonial. I'm going to guess this deal would probably close to be 10 million or so, give or take, maybe as high as 20. I doubt it. Probably closer to 10 or so. And so he does have some kind of ownership stake, and they will use him in some kind of way to promote the brand. But I don't know if it's like there's anything even approximating executive control. It seems to me somewhat, listen to the words I'm saying, somewhat symbolic.
Okay, and then I guess the final question on this is, will he take a BKFC fight in the next 5 years? Where do you think his contract is
So
at?
in the next 5 years, he'll be 40.
Sure, but I don't think that there's necessarily an age limit on BKFC. I don't.
I'm going to say no.
I don't think
I'm going to
so.
say no. I don't think he does. I just think, dude, they're so fucking brutal. I just don't. You think he does?
I feel like he wants that. He's not going to get kicked in the legs. He's not going to get taken down. He's not going to be out slicked per se by if he went to pro boxing again and did another type of crossover
He's generally
fight.
had a decent chin.
He is a guy who came up in the streets of Crumlin and has fast hands and knows how to get off bare knuckle shots.
You know what?
He's had bare knuckle fights in real life. Luke, we've seen it, right?
And you know what? I didn't mention this, but we should mention this as well. He has kind of thrown his name in the hat a little bit for some of these Jake Paul fights and some of these kind of crossover fights. So we're talking about areas of exploration for him. It's a possibility. It's certainly a possibility.
I'm just saying he's such a moneymaker, obviously, and will be until he loses 8 fights in a row, right? Like it will be. He's always going to be a moneymaker. So maybe it helps the idea, rather than have him at the end of his UFC run when he does get out of his contract, if that's going to happen. He says he's UFC for life. He always says that, right? And I believe him on that regard. But maybe this allows UFC to come in and partner with down the line, right? If he's still under contract, but there is, let's say it's Mike Perry versus Conor McGregor in 2 years is like the biggest bare knuckle fight you could ever make, right? Maybe that allows UFC to get in. Maybe they don't want that. I don't know, but it's interesting. So we'll have to see how it rolls off.
Quickly here, BC, I don't want to forget about this. Mike Perry wins first round, TKO, Thiago Alves, a decorated combat athlete. He fought at UFC 100. He gave George St. Pierre a very tough fight. If you've never seen his fight against Carlos Condit, which I believe was in Brazil, it's fucking fantastic. Go take a look at it. The point I did want to make was they can't find anyone who can stand with this guy. And they're finding good fighters. Yes, Thiago Alves was 40, a little bit older, but Eddie Alvarez, also a little bit older, but was still a dog in that fight. But they just cannot stand up to his firepower, to his durability, to his mental makeup. We talked to him last Monday. BC, are they going to be able to find anybody? But remember, this fight was at 185 to stand with him.
Well, they've got some work to do. So Mike now, since leaving the UFC, is 5-0. He won that boxing match against Michael Seals with the Triller triangle ring, and he's won 4
Wait. One more time, say that again. We got breaking news here. Okay, so we'll come back to this news. We're just finding out Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson is an officially sanctioned professional contest. It will not be an exhibition. We'll react to that in just a minute. Finish your point.
What were we talking about again? No.
BKFC.
No, Mike Perry. Look, Mike Perry's 4-0 in bare knuckle, 3 straight knockouts. I don't lie when I say he's a pay-per-view star. He's on the rise. We had this debate when I was on the Jed Meshew, Mike Heck MMA fighting, below the belt, below the lines, beneath the lines, between the lines.
Believe these loins.
Believe these loins. In between the links, thank you. And what Jed, ultimately said, and he was right, and it's what Mike brought up afterwards. I think there are 2 fights that BKFC potentially could make in the near future that would make a lot of sense. One is Darren Till, and Mike Perry is now sharing on social media the voice message DMs he got from Darren Till, talking about his family, talking crazy stuff. That's a viable fight. There's a grudge there, UFC history, all that. And then he called out the winner of Nate Diaz versus Jorge Masvidal. And if you want to do a pay-per-view that people have to see, I'm going to ask you true or false. Is Mike Perry versus the winner or loser of a Diaz-Masvidal boxing match potentially the biggest fight card in BKFC history? Because this was Knucklemania 4. This was a big tentpole one. Once again, Feldman said this is the biggest night in BKFC history. They say that every time Mike fights. That might be the biggest night in BKFC history if Mike fights either Jorge or Nate. Do you think either guy would accept the money to do that?
Jorge, yes. I don't know about Nate.
Nate was there on Saturday. They interviewed him ringside.
Sure.
He didn't commit to wanting to fight. He's like, I don't know if I ever want to do this.
I mean, I think honestly he would go to, I'm not necessarily saying explicitly the highest bidder, but if they were, let's say, the highest bidder, he would. It's possible. I just don't think it's the likeliest scenario with Nate because he does cut easy, and that's a big problem. Jorge, I think, would be all about it. By the way, I was trying to think about
Wouldn't that be big, though? Jorge versus Mike, those 2 personalities?
It could be big. And also, if you think about why MMA fans like it, I'm not saying MMA fans don't like boxing, although many of them just don't like boxing.
A lot of our fans do.
That's true. But the reality is, if you look at it, we had Max and Gaethje slugging it out the last 10 seconds. Even on this card, we had Pierce and Onama slugging it out. I'm not sure if you saw that. And by the way, none of them got a bonus for it. So, like, this idea that, like, bonuses compel you to do it is total nonsense. But the point I'm trying to make is they were slugging it out, and it's like BKFC is a lot closer to that than boxing is. This kind of wild exchange, guys just biting down and throwing.
It still has a UFC 1 Raw feel to it.
It does. That's exactly right.
And it's not just Raw in the violent side or the unpredictability side. It's Raw in the unpredictability of who's going to win. We still don't really know. Like, we're seeing some boxers have success. Austin Trout, who's boxing from distance now for BKFC, the former champion. But Luke, we still haven't, like, there's no real formula yet on how you cross over from either boxing or MMA to be great at this, except for what Mike Perry's doing. And he's coming right at people, putting hands right in their face, and he's got a great chin. But it's interesting that Thiago Alves, who had been off for a couple of years and then announced his retirement again after this, I mean, he succumbed quickly to Mike. So they are running out. But one thing I hope for David Feldman's sake in his plans of making BKFC bigger is they need to make sure they're getting Mike better potential options in the BKFC circle than he could get either in crossover boxing. We know he's been wanting to fight the Paul brothers forever. In traditional boxing, if that even comes his way. Or even, Luke, do you ever see a scenario where he gets so big again if he can escalate names, okay? MVP, Luke Rockhold, Eddie Alvarez. No, Thiago Alves, good name. What if it is Jorge Masvidal and what next fight or the fight after? Does he ever get to a point, Mike Perry, that the UFC comes calling again and says, you know what? BKFC, you against, or not BKFC, BMF, you against Gaethje or whatever. Would that ever happen? I just hope for Feldman's sake and what he's building along with Mike that they can bring the opponents in so Mike doesn't have to look around and go elsewhere.
Mike got $600K for that fight.
That's awesome.
Right. So,
like, I'm happy for him. I'm proud of him.
Right. No, he has every dollar of that he's earned. I think if UFC would offer something similar, he would take it, but I don't know that they would at this point. They don't need to. They have all the leverage. So I think he's going to go, not necessarily with the highest bidder, but if there's a big gap where, hey, to BKFC, you're a $600K talent. To UFC, you're a $300K talent. I don't know. I don't know what he'll do with that. I don't know how he would navigate that. He's got time. Time is not, he doesn't have to run to make a decision, but that's the way I would look at it. Why would you? If you can make 2X for shorter fights where you have less training load and less injury load in training, wouldn't you? And by the way, you're fucking awesome at one of these. Wouldn't you do that? I mean, again, some of these glory questions come into play, which complicates it, but something to consider.
One more thing to stick in your glory hole, Luke, is that, it felt weird delivering that.
You're a weird fucking guy.
Like, timing wise, it was the right joke at the right time. It did feel weird though.
He's like, speaking of banging you, all right.
The real theory of your question was in Mike with his rant afterwards. If you saw that in the ring afterwards, is can you find somebody that can fight with me, that can be my equal? Do they have to again go up? Does he have to again go up in weight? Mike Perry in MMA fought what, between 55 and 70 for most of his career?
Mostly 70, but yes.
Now he's fighting at 185. We saw him walk down and destroy Rockhold and make him essentially quit. Does Mike now have to continue to match upward in weight to even the gap in here?
He might. Lorenzo Hunt, by the way, lost. He did not become triple champ.
Well, his elbow fell out.
Yeah.
Did you see that?
Yeah. It was an injury, yes. But nevertheless, I think you're probably right. I think he probably does have to level up and just go to, like, insane weight classes.
So I'm like, do they have to bring in a name old boxer for him to fight? I'm not sure.
Till would be the best one they could bring.
Yeah, because you want real heat. And
Yes.
Mike's willing to sell it. Did you see the trash talk he was? He's willing to sell it.
He's ready to go.
Yeah. All right. That's topic number one. That's BKFC in the weekend. I've got Todd Duffy news coming in BKFC, so we can hit it there. Or I'm sorry, in BHYSTS.
BC's feces.
BC's feces. I'm all over the place. Topic number two, though, as we slide off of BKFC back into boxing quickly before we set the stage for what's coming this weekend. I don't know if you saw this in the past week, but pretty damn big news in boxing. We're getting huge fights. A lot of it is Saudi Arabia infused. And that will only continue August 3rd, Los Angeles, outdoor football stadium. Or is it covered? I'm not really sure. The whole point is this. Turki Al-Sheikh is bringing Riyadh season from Saudi Arabia to the States in an absolutely loaded card that brings the return of a lot of people's pound for pound king, Terence Crawford. His first appearance since beating Errol Spence. He'll move up in weight, take on Israil Madrimov, an absolute legitimate champion and opponent for a 154-pound title. But Luke, the news goes beyond Terence Crawford. You're bringing together PBC, who we said, will they ever work with Saudi? You're bringing together Golden Boy. Eddie Hearns appears to be the lead promoter with Matchroom Sport. You've got Salida Promotions. You've got Manny Pacquiao Promotions with Sean Gibbons. Look at this card. Your co-feature is rising star Isaac Cruz against El Rayo Jose Valenzuela, the PBC slugger, who El Rayo, who knocked out Chris Colbert in consecutive fights.
Brutally.
The fight after that might be the best fight on the card.
He got robbed in the first one. That's why they had the second one. Remember that?
That's true. He got robbed. He did knock down Colbert in that first one. This fight, though, might be the best fight on the card. Tim Tszyu, fresh off that war with Sebastian Fundora, is going to fight unbeaten Virgil Ortiz,
who won in a round over the weekend. Round.
We'll see the highlights on Have You Seen This Shit. He's 21-0 with 20 KOs, and even though he's had the illness and injury of late and he's been out of the ring a lot, he's a stud. Like, this is arguably a pay-per-view main event in the third fight from the top.
I know you got to ask a question, but look, just go down the list. Jarrell Miller being back is interesting because didn't he just hold up a car dealership? I don't know what happened with that. Either way,
he took all the drugs.
Okay, but Andy Ruiz was holding out for a big payday.
Yes.
Looks like he played that one correctly, actually.
You got David Morrell moving up to 175, following David Benavidez.
And Andy Cruz, what is he, a multiple-time Olympic gold medalist?
Yes, from Cuba.
Who is a fucking phenom. Dude, this card is dumb
Luke,
stacked.
There's a lot of angles to go on here, but let's start right off the top. You've been around boxing a long time. How freaking deep is this pay-per-view card August 3rd?
So I'm not a boxing historian by any stretch of the imagination, but I did try and look at it and say, hey, what are some of the deepest cards that have ever taken place in the United States, right? What do those look like? And the answer ends up being you have to go back to the somewhat in the 80s or in certain cases early 90s.
Don King, right?
Don King cards. Bernard Hopkins fighting on the same card as Roberto Duran.
Or Chavez Sr. on the same card as...
Maybe it might actually been all three of them on
Sometimes
one of those
you would
cards.
get Tyson, Chavez Sr.
Yes.
You'd get Christy Martin underneath. You know,
that is what you have to go back to. I mean, folks ask, what was the heyday of boxing? And most will say probably Ali's peak, somewhere around the 60s or 70s, depending how you want to look at that. But a lot of people, like us, remember boxing in the 80s, Mike Tyson carrying that, Sugar Ray Leonard carrying that, Marvin Hagler to an extent carrying that, other figures as well. And it was still extremely big at that time. Corrupt, but still capable of producing a worldwide global superstar in the case of Mike Tyson and potentially some other ones as well. This is a throwback to that. It's not a throwback to the very, 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 very top days of boxing, but to a very close approximation. To the point I'm trying to make, BC,
this is a dream.
We'll talk about the sports washing angle in just a second.
Sure.
But just in terms of what the involvement means, it is not in any way an exaggeration to say that the Saudi investment through Turkey Al-Sheikh is transforming the sport of boxing. I made a list here. Listen to this very quickly, if I may. Day of Reckoning. That was one of the first cards that had...
Ngannou versus Fury.
Yes, on that card. No, that was a different one. It was a
Joshua and Wilder in separate fights.
Same cards. Fury and Ngannou. That was another card. By the way, Jake Paul, Tommy Fury. Folks forget about that one. Still an influencer one, but big. Joshua Usyk, too, was in Saudi Arabia. Joshua Ngannou, Saudi Arabia. By the way, they got Joshua Ruiz for a $41 million site fee just to host. Fury Usyk coming up here is going to be in Saudi Arabia. Better Beef Bivol coming up in Saudi Arabia is going to be big here. And now Crawford Madrimov. And you look at those cards, not all of them are equally stacked. In fact, some of them are not at all. But the point I'm trying to make is look at the effort they are putting in right away. Look at the angle that first heavyweight boxing, now they're transitioning into everything else and literally putting on cards that fucking remind us of the 1980s. No other promoter has even come close to doing something like this.
Off with their heads is a thing. Journalists got beheaded in that country.
Tukey loves Alice in Wonderland.
Yeah, I'm sure she does. So does Turkey Al-Sheikh. But here's the deal. Turkey Al-Sheikh is boxing's new Santa Claus. It is what it is. I know that there's elements that people think it might be short-lived with him spending all this money. Unfortunately, there's some rumors, or not rumors, he said it himself that he might not have long due to an illness he's battling, and he's putting off some of the treatment to make these dream fights for boxing fans. For as long as this lasts, yes, there's other issues, sports washing, other things to deal with. But as just a pure boxing fan, the value you're getting, the fact that like the MMA equivalent of this would be to get Dana White, Scott Coker when he was running Bellator.
No. Scott Coker when he was running Strikeforce.
Yes, or Don Davis of the PFL, Chatri.
And Sakaki Bara at Pride. That's what this is.
And you sat them all down right now of who are the promoters now, and you basically said, let's get a fighter from you, fighter from you, fighter from you, fighter from you. We basically said, the Saudi thing is interesting, and we're getting a lot of our dream fights happening now, like Fury versus Usyk could be the only fight that happens this year, and I'd be fired up. Bivol versus Beterbiev could be the only fight that happens this year, and I'd be fired up. But now we're getting them all, month to month. And Turkey Al-Sheikh is like, I want to go into the lower weight classes now, and I want to come to America and bring Oscar, Eddie, Al Heyman, and everybody together. Guys,
well, Was this more? This more than what you anticipated? When they first started getting involved? Because remember, they did Ruiz Joshua 2, right? Ruiz won in New York in that major upset. They do the rematch in Saudi Arabia. Stupidest name ever. Clash of the Dunes. Worst title ever. But when they started getting involved there, did you think it would end up here?
No. One thing we had said consistently, and it's true, it's great what they're doing over there. But Al Heyman and PBC, in theory, has half of the fighters that matter in the globe, or used to, or whatever. We'd have to see. There's some fighters that have jumped recently. Maybe this is only happening because PBC has the smaller deal with Amazon Prime Video and doesn't have the second series that we thought they would need with the amount of fighters they have. Maybe that's why their pay-per-views have been a little bit more loaded lately. Either way, now that Al Heyman is on board and we saw Luis Taquibas Jr. meeting with Turki Al-Sheikh and was able to get El Rayo on the card, able to get Pitbull Cruz, which is no small thing to get Pitbull Cruz on after knocking out Rolly Romero on this current star rise he's on.
Good timing.
Even if you know nothing about Israil Madrimov, and not a lot of us even do, Madrimov, apparently I don't know anything about him. This is a great fight because arguably the best fighter in the world, Crawford, finally coming back, moving up in weight. And maybe the setup here is that Crawford fights the winner of Zoo versus Virgil Ortiz, which would be mind-blowing. I've heard Turki say in the media he still has 2 goals for the end of this year. He still wants Crawford against Canelo, and I forgot what the other big one he wanted. The whole point here is that I guess once in a while in boxing we can have our cake and eat it too. Somebody may lose their neck for this, Luke. I don't know.
Bonesaw style.
I'm being a little crazy there, but is this enough? Because where we were November, December, as these fights were starting to pop up and the whispers of more coming around the calendar of 2024 were there, we still had our foot in the puddle of sports washing. We still had our foot in the puddle, rightfully so, of Jamal Khashoggi, the journalist from Washington Post. Yeah. Are we past that now? Should we be past that now? Because, Luke, we're getting everything we want.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you should ever be past a journalist being bonesawed to death.
But now we don't have to go to Saudi. They're coming to us.
That's right. There is that. But what I would say is, when you think about this, I mean, it's not just that they're putting on big names. Are there big names on all these cards? Yes. And is Jake Paul versus Tommy Fury any kind of fight of consequence? No, of course it is not. But BC, Fury versus Usyk is for the heavyweight unification. First time in the 4-belt era. Obviously, Crawford versus Madrimov doesn't get us anywhere close to that.
Sure.
But they're trying to do fights of consequence when they can. And every seemingly noteworthy obstacle, they're in different networks, they're far apart on demands. This guy comes in and waves the magic wand of, okay, what is your price to fix this? And then just fixes it. Boxing fans, from what I can tell, are over the moon about Saudi investment. So it gets back to the question about sports washing, and we've been through this one a number of times, but I do think it is worth asking, is it working? In other words, is this kind of effort? Boxing fans are mostly just focused on what are you giving me as a boxing fan? No doubt about it. But is this wider conversation of, are people's attitudes softening towards Saudi Arabia? Again, maybe they should, because there's a whole conversation about what the U.S. has done and other Western powers. I don't want to get too far off to the conversation in a different direction. But what I will say is, from the best of my approximation, whether you think this is shameful or inevitable, or maybe you think it is good, are people's attitudes softening towards the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia? I don't think there can be any doubt. I don't think there can be any doubt at all at this point. So does sports washing work? Matter of fact,
right. And I mean, to some degree, Saudi Arabia is also doing it with good intentions as well, right? Like, they're trying to make it a vacation destination. They're trying to give, taking from Kareem Zidane, who you interviewed on Morning Combat late last year, they're trying to give the youth more options of the entertainment things they always wanted.
It's not just to sports watch.
Right, and I'm not saying it doesn't mean it covers up all of those sins, but boxing has always had their hand in things that are a little sketchy. Do you remember when the Mafia ran the sport when our grandparents were young? I mean, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's always sort of been like that. It doesn't justify it, but if this is what we're getting, and here's if you ask yourself, okay, how could it escalate? How can we get even more? Luke, I tell you this. We all know the hottest division in this sport is 140 pounds and the fighters that are in and around it. And whether you call them the Four Princes, as Karen Mulvaney called it, or the Chris Algieri has another name for him. The Four Horsemen, Luke. And really, it's 5, in my opinion. It always has been. It's Teofimo, Ryan Garcia, Devin Haney, Tank Davis, and Shakur Stevenson, who's coming up in weight behind them. If they start getting into that business, if Turki Al-Sheikh starts saying, we not only don't need to go to Saudi for these big events, but I'm going to find a way to get Haney, Tank, Ryan, Teofimo, and Shakur to all fight each other so that we actually could have our own version in this era of the Four Kings, where Leonard, Hearns, Duran, and Hagler fought each other 9 times. Those 4 gentlemen fought each other 9 times in 10 years, and it bridged the gap of Muhammad Ali's retirement. It took boxing to another level. If somehow Turki Al-Sheikh can get these great stars to continue this round robin that Ryan Garcia, got to give him credit, started by forcing his way into the Tank fight, by taking the Haney fight when people said he shouldn't. Is this our future? Because if our future is Haney versus Tank and Shakur getting involved, dude, I'm not going to deface the American flag and wear my NWO wrestling shirt, but I might put on a Saudi flag after this, Luke.
Okay, that's a little much.
Okay, that was a little much. But the boxing fan in me has, in any of us, the boxing fan has been waiting for something like this forever.
That's the part. Like the boxing fan today feels like somebody who's been trapped in the desert.
Yes.
And here comes somebody with a jug full of water and is quenching your thirst in all of the most important kind of ways. That is a real thing.
We want to see the fight. We want to see the best fight the best. We thought it might be Dana White who would come in and save us by spending a lot of money. We thought it was Al Heyman when they launched the PBC back in 2015 on every network. It never quite happened. Is Turkey that glue? Is it long-term? I don't know.
That's the other part, too. It's like there have been whispers about Saudi Arabia kind of dialing back some of these international reach efforts, not because they haven't worked, but because there might be better ways to... People think that their money is infinite, and it is about as close to infinite as it gets. But there are limits to what they want to spend. When they are going to get world events like the World Cup and Formula One, boxing currently is doing a great deal of work in rehabilitating their image. I do think at some point that will stop, or at a bare minimum, just not really keep going up in the way that it has. And so if you get to that point, I don't know if continued investment really matters, or I should say, I don't know if continued investment really continues if they're like, well, we've done boxing was useful. It is no longer useful in maintaining international image or whatever they're using it for. They might walk away at that point. So everyone being like, oh, this is the future. I would argue this is the now. And if you want some of that Saudi money, and again, there's a whole complicated debate about that, but if you want it, this is the time to get it. I don't know how much longer it's going to be around. One thing I want to point out, too, is PBC has this card coming up in June where they've got Tank and they've got David Benavidez. It's not a double header, but they're kind of both being featured as headliner and then big co-main event. I don't think they double up Tank unless they were trying to not compete so much with the Saudis, but compete for the dollar, given what the Saudis are doing, making much bigger calculations about, hey, how am I going to spend my money here if I have to pay for this, and then now you're just giving me Tank. Tank is great. Oh, but you're going to give me Tank and David Benavidez. Okay, that's a much better value proposition for the consumer. So, like, it's kind of raising the bar, seemingly, in a lot of different directions.
Would I have ever thought in my combat sports journalism and fan years that a fight like a can't-miss stadium fight like John Jones versus Francis Ngannou could not be made, but yet all my boxing dreams are coming true.
It's insane.
Imagine if we now have Crawford, Spence, Zhu, Fundora, and Jermell Charlo operating in the 54 title window. Like, boxing is happening. It's coming together. Bivol versus Better Beef. Frank Warren versus Eddie Hearn are going to do a 5-on-5 that day. There's talk about Oscar wanting to go head-to-head with Top Rank in a 5-on-5
And Big Bang
card.
Jang said we're going to bang each other.
Man. I need a boxing cigarette, Luke.
All right, we do have MMA to get to. So for MMA fans who are like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Just wait a bit.
Yeah.
This is not a big, strong weekend for MMA, by the way. It's a fine weekend for MMA, but it's not a big, strong one. It's a pretty decent one for boxing. So BC, question number 3 I pose to you. It is now the return of Cinnamon, a.k.a. Canelo Alvarez. Saul Alvarez is back, and he's taking on Jaime Munguia. This will be in Las Vegas. Again, as we mentioned, we'll be there for Thursday show, Friday show, the whole 9 yards. BC, I don't want to just look at something and be like, oh, that happened, so this will happen. But we both had to eat a lot of crow about Ryan Garcia. Don't want to make that mistake again if I don't have to. Should we be, let me ask this way. Should we expect Mungia to have more of a chance than the current betting odds might indicate, in part because Mungia had a decent show against Derevyanchenko and some other ones, John Ryder.
Yes.
And then Canelo had a good showing against Charlo, but he didn't really show up himself. It was kind of just one-way traffic because one guy didn't really do a whole lot. And there's been questions about him. Ryder went the distance, for example, with Canelo. Are we all doing the same Garcia madness again? Not because he's a crazy person, but we're just underestimating Jaime Munguia.
Yeah, I think we have to stop and make sure we don't do it right now. We do have to look at all the facts in ways that we necessarily didn't ahead of Garcia Haney, but a lot of that was the distraction purposefully of what Ryan was trying to do. And then the other half of it was we weren't sure Ryan was ever going to put it together on the level that he did against Haney. And there was the weight miss. There were a lot of things that made that a perfect storm. Could this be a perfect storm in the same regard for Jaime Mungia? I think there's some things to think about. The Jaime Mungia of the opinion that we had has changed over the years. He was this huge 154-pound champion who was like, oh my God, down the road, he could fight Canelo. This would be great. But when he went to middleweight in his beginning run at 68, we've talked about it on the show for the last 2 years ad nauseum. It's like, who is he fighting? Nobody of consequence. And it's not that, it's exciting, but who cares? He has come alive of late to his credit. He is in his absolute mental and physical prime in this all Mexico showdown, which really raises the emotional stakes as it always does. But Luke, he's a big boy who's always had an ability to just stand in front and take big punches and deliver big ones back. But since he's transitioned from Eric Morales, who was his trainer for a while, but now that Eric Morales is going into politics in Tijuana and they brought in Freddie Roach, I feel like he's unleashing even more another level of his offensive ability. I never would have thought that he would turn into that fighter that we saw in the last couple fights, the close Derevyanchenko win and the destruction of John Ryder. But here we are. So Luke, if you're going to talk yourselves into this fight being close and being a legit potential action fight and a threat to Canelo, which I do think it is. I think there are clues and facts around if we are now going to stop ourselves from making the knee-jerk reactions. Canelo's going to tune Mungia up like a guitar, right? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, no, he could. But here's the deal. I don't think we should overlook this. Canelo is ducking David Benavidez.
Wow. You know what we need? We need the hip-hop horn. Da-na-na-na. You know what I'm talking about?
And the good news for boxing fans is that if there's a fight that you would accept in place of the Benavidez fight, I do think it's Mungia right now, right? It just makes sense commercially, style-wise, action potential. But I really don't like what Canelo's been doing. Maybe still Canelo plans on fighting Benavidez this fall, and this is just all about keeping his value, keeping the negotiation on his side, and maybe just not allowing David Benavidez to dictate. To Benavidez's credit, he's moving up to 175. He's also he's basically like, F you, Canelo. I got my own career to go after. But Canelo's most recent comments just a week and a half ago were, if I was going to fight David Benavidez, I would have to do it at a catch weight or a rehydration clause weight. And if I do that, no one's going to give me credit. So I'm just not going to fight him, which doesn't make any sense at all. You moved up to 75 and knocked out Kovalev. You moved up to 75 and lost to Bivol in a big fight. So Luke, I'm just wondering if there's signs there to us. If there's signs there that, not that Canelo's old and washed and see, he's ducking him. That's proof. But maybe he doesn't want the smoke on that level. So maybe in his mind, Mungia, certainly not as skilled as Benavidez, maybe, Luke, there's an idea that this man who we thought put the train back on the tracks against Charlo because of how one-sided it was after those sort of ho-hum decision wins against Ryder, where we were just sort of like, we knew he had the injury. We knew he wasn't training at full speed like he was when he ran his way to the super middleweight title undisputed and run through all those unbeaten champions. I'm wondering, Luke, if that's a sign to us that he doesn't necessarily want to be in there and get the smoke of Benavidez. Could that lift Jaime Mungia? Could that mean that Canelo is overlooking what's coming his way and he's going to be in a real action fight? Look, I'll tell you right now, I'm probably going to pick Canelo, and you should odds-wise, right? The experience and all that.
Yeah, if you want, by the way, quickly, the odds on this bout, according to our friends at DraftKings, Jaime Mungia plus 425, Canelo Alvarez minus 600.
And that makes sense. But Canelo's going to have to fight to win this. He's going to have to fight through Mungia, fight him off to win this. I'm just wondering if that gap is going to close in ways that right now we can't imagine. One thing, now Oscar De La Hoya is a promoter. And we tried to get him on the show today. I wish we had him right here to talk about this. Golden Boy a little mad at me over my Ryan Garcia takes. Understandable, but, it is what it is. Oscar said, maybe this fight is just like when he fought Julio Cesar Chavez Sr. the first time. When Chavez Sr. was 34, thought that he still had it, but he was close to getting old, so to speak. And what did De La Hoya go in there as the young kid? All of Mexico backed the old guy Chavez. They weren't really ready yet to fully embrace this Mexican-American in De La Hoya. And De La Hoya, the younger fighter, although he was much more skilled than Mungia, come in there and beat up Chavez, cut him, stopped him. They end up doing the rematch 2 years later. Chavez a little bit older. He did a little bit better. He still got stopped again. It's an interesting proposition from Oscar that we all have this mindset, this idea, okay, we know who Canelo is. We know he's going to go in there and chop him up. But what if Charlo fight was fool's gold? What if Canelo is aging naturally after turning pro at 15, after being in nothing but title fights and being on top of the sport for a full decade as a pound-for-pound guy and as a commercial pay-per-view star, the biggest in the sport? maybe it does have soft connotations of what De La Hoya versus Chavez Sr. was, where eventually, Luke, the young is going to take out the old. Is this the potential day of reckoning that Canelo doesn't see coming, that this fight is going to be more physical and closer than we expect? That is what is driving me, and that does sort of play into the idea of we were so dismissive of Ryan Garcia's chances, but then he put it together. What if Jaime Munguia is in the midst of putting it together, just as Canelo might be looking at the business side of it a little too closely lately and trying to keep Benavidez away?
I think there's a perspective out there that Canelo took this fight under a little bit of, I won't say duress, but under a little bit of pressure, because certain reports were like, oh, he wanted Jermall Charlo, and that was he really didn't want another one.
Because there was a set list of 3 opponents that PBC gave him at the beginning of his original contract.
That's right.
That's why.
Allegedly, anyway. There's a way to look at this and say the reason Canelo took Mungia, aside from some business considerations, is because he was trying to put off the day of reckoning later. In other words, he did not think that, he thought Mungia was a safe bet to avoid the reckoning that could come with age or inevitability or David Benavidez or however you would like to put that. Mungia was a way around that, yet it's an all-Mexican affair. It's an action fight. That's why he would do it. I'll say this, BC. Try not to make the bonehead error if I can avoid it. The tape on Mungia is not necessarily super inspiring.
Sure.
He throws a lot of the same combos. He does not have nearly the same defensive awareness I think he would need against Canelo.
Better angles, though, the last 2 fights to set up his power shots.
Yes, and he's gone the distance 2 times in this weight class. He went the distance a bunch with like I think Hogan or Liam Smith or Takeshi Inoue. He went at a different weight class. This weight class, it was Ryder and Derevyanchenko. And so that was good. But I'll just say this, like, I went into the Garcia fight thinking he had no chance, and he showed some new wrinkles. And what have we always said about guys who are hitting that 27, 28-year-old mark, which is right exactly where Mungia is? That's when you really still begin to see some major innovation in their game as they really fully become man strength. Everything, they're entering their prime. Everything begins to gel. Canelo probably should win this fight, BC, and I don't think he made an arrogant call picking Mungia. I think he made a calculated call. But it does seem to me that he is trying to avoid the tougher fights out there. And let me just ask you, BC, if Canelo ends up losing, first of all, like, he never gets a bad call on a decision, right? I mean, we just know in Vegas, Canelo is like absolutely, ironclad when it comes to getting the judge's nod. So let's imagine something. Let's imagine Mungia does get the win and does it via decision in Las Vegas. What kind of a boxing earthquake would that be?
It'd be large. It'd be very large. You just set up a big money rematch. Boy, would you, right?
Huge, right?
Huge rematch. It would allow Canelo to do, the older guy trick that a lot of legends do. I mean,
let me just add this. I think it actually relieves the pressure of the David Benavidez
temporarily. Fight. The pressure would increase if he came back and won the rematch, which is like, Ali lost to Leon Spinks, came back, won
and
the rematch.
And if he won via KO or something, it'd be huge. Sure. But and for the time being, if he loses to Mungia, they're like, dude, if you're losing to Mungia, you have no hope against Benavidez.
In theory, yeah.
In theory.
I mean, look, I don't take pleasure in trying to say Canelo's ducking him. I love Canelo's been one of the best guys to cover forever because he's always been about giving the fans what they want, about saying, I don't care, give me all the best fighters. I mean, he moved up to 75 twice. He dares to be great on the regular. But now he's in the Floyd Mayweather welterweight period of his career, and he's learned from Mayweather these business choices and the leverage you have as the A side. He never used to abuse his leverage, Luke, outside of, as we always say, making Golovkin wait 2 additional years until he was a little bit into his mid-30s and a little bit older. Still very close, controversial fights. But eventually, you can't get every close decision, right? You really can't. What if Mungia fights over his head? It'll be interesting in this matchup to see. But you can't argue with me. Him not fighting Benavidez right now, there's no excuse. In fact, the sanctioning bodies are going way out of their way to help him. You realize that David Morrell Jr., the unbeaten super middleweight,
who's on that big card we just previewed,
has been the mandatory at WBA forever for Canelo. David Benavidez is the interim champion and the mandatory in WBC forever for Canelo. But yet the WBA and WBC did not make them the they were like right there as number 1 contenders, but they didn't basically say, Canelo, this is your mandatory, you must, because they have that super champion rule that they allow people, to do what they want. The second that Morrell moves up, guess who they made the number 1 contender? It was, what's his name, who came over from Top Rank and signed with Eddie Hearn? Berlanga, Edgar Berlanga. instantly made him the #1 mandatory contender for Canelo. And it's like,
which is again one of the fights that Canelo wanted, because he wasn't looking for the tougher fights in that moment.
Exactly. So it's like they're helping him not do what he's supposed to do. They should tell him, look, you're fighting David Benavidez for the belt, and if you don't, you're stripped of the belt. That's how boxing works. That's why we have, in theory, why these sanctioning bodies are supposed to help. So he's getting helped. I just don't like what Canelo's doing to his own reputation in this season. I'm just wondering if this is such a bad miss.
Let me ask one more question about this. Why isn't Canelo allowed to okay, so I fully agree with you that he's not taking the tougher fights. I don't really know how you could argue with that. What I will ask is, and again, I'm asking in good faith, which is, why isn't he allowed to do this right now? Is the simple answer, you actually could, but because you're holding the belts hostage,
Yes.
that's the problem?
It's a combination of holding the belts hostage. He became the undisputed champion after beating Caleb Plant. We were there that time. Was that November of 2021, maybe?
Mhm.
And it's like, then he moved up to light heavyweight to do the B-Vol one, and there was talk about an eventual rematch. It didn't happen. And then he did the mandatory against John Ryder at home. And then it's like, oh, you're starting your PBC deal, and here's Jermell Charlo, and he's the unbeaten, undisputed champion at 54. I was all for that fight. But at each step of the way, they're just excuses about why Benavidez wouldn't be next that make no sense for a guy that's a two-time former champion, interim champion, #1 contender, all this stuff. It just makes no sense. But Luke, the other half of that equation is when you have built your reputation on not abusing the power you have and the leverage you have, it's very disappointing for longtime fans and journalists like us who have protected Canelo for years because of that fact. We say, well, okay, we'll give him the benefit of the doubt because at the end of the day, he always makes the fights we want. If this is just to push it off a little bit more, that would make sense. But it doesn't make sense to push it off a little bit more. Canelo is getting older every single day. Benavidez is getting better every single day. So what is he hoping that Benavidez goes up to 75 and can't make 68 anymore, and we don't have to talk about this anymore? Okay, but it's not a good look. It's not a good move. I can't defend it at all. I want to be able to defend that. Canelo was the anti-Floyd in some ways, right? When we were always getting on Floyd, fight Manny when we want you to fight Manny. Now, in the end, Floyd controlled this business. He fought everybody on his terms a lot of ways. We don't want to see Canelo abusing that power. We want to see him go in there and give what the fans want because that's what he's been about. That's why he's still doing this, Luke. He could walk away. Do you know how rich Canelo is? I mean, you know how freaking rich he is? But Canelo's the one who's trying to be as great as he can be, who's trying to put that resume out there so the Mexican fans go, man, we love Chavez Sr., but how are we going to deny this guy? Look at who he's fought. You have to go in there and fight Benavidez. It's not like he's protecting an unbeaten record, right? He's got 2 defeats. You got to do it. You got to do it. You got to do it, Luke. Doesn't he owe you, or give up the belts, or give up the belts and announce that I'm in the twilight period. I'm just going to take fun, big fights, crossover fights. I mean, the fact that he didn't fight Crawford, should have fought Crawford.
Should have fought Benavidez. You're the champion of that fucking weight class.
But if he fought Crawford, we wouldn't have said anything.
You're right.
The Mungia fight is good enough where we're not saying a lot, but you still got to say it. You still got to say it at the end of the day.
Yeah, you're right. If he fought Crawford, I would be quiet about it, but he didn't. He's fighting fucking Mungia, who still might win. That's the best part about it. He still might win.
Yeah.
All right, how do you want to do this? Because we're supposed to have Patchy Mix here soon. You want to start the next topic?
Yeah, let's start the next topic here, Luke.
We can just pause it in the middle.
Number 4. It's not just Canelo Mungia this weekend. UFC 301 in Brazil is back with a flyweight main event between champion Alexandre Pantoja and UFC newcomer Steve Erceg, who is 3-0 since making his Octagon debut last June. Luke, where does this main event rank in terms of all-time pay-per-view letdown when we're talking about pay-per-view main events?
Okay, so let me just say this, personally speaking. I actually like this fight. I like it a lot. I think, you can put that on me anytime you want there, fella. There you go. There you go.
It's like cooking a sandwich back there, making things. Yeah.
Listen, I told them not to bring the bong to work, and they brought the dildo bong to work just the same. What can you do? BC, I'll say this. I like this fight. I'm not asking anyone else to like it. I'm not telling anybody they have to agree with it.
No, it's a great fight, but pay-per-view main event after 300?
Okay.
Come on.
After 300, it is certainly a downgrade, and you wondered why couldn't you find some rando heavyweight to fight Alex Pereira? They just didn't do it, whatever. Here we are. So I looked up the main events, or events in general, certainly, that got a lot of pushback from fans. I was at some of these. So one of them would be Holly Holm versus GDR, Jermaine Duran to me. Not a fight that
expired. It was supposed to be Cyborg.
This is UFC 208. Yep. UFC 149 was kind of not thrown together, but there's a ton of injuries, so it ended up being Faber versus Barral, but it wasn't the blockbuster that it sounds like. Krokop versus Mir is big names, but the fight was dreadful until the last second. Evans versus Henderson was just 2 old guys not doing anything.
They weren't that old, though. I was excited for that fight on paper.
it was a letdown as a fight. But
Sure.
you're right. On paper,
We're
certainly
talking
much
about
better.
on paper. All right?
On paper, I think the worst is probably UFC 122, Marquardt versus Okami. But that fight took place in Germany, which was not a big
Yes.
priority for them. Brazil kind of still is. So let's table this conversation.
Sure.
I'll give an answer after the interview because there's a bit of a notation, a historical notation I'd like to make to this.
Well, we will pause this discussion. We'll be back for more UFC 301. And
Yes.
of course, to quickly recap the UFC that went down this weekend, but we have a special guest sliding in. He's the Bellator Bantamweight Champion of the World. And on May 17th at Bellator 303 in Paris, he will defend his title in a rematch with Magomedov, who he put to sleep on
Certainly
this
did.
reign of terror. Let's welcome in Patchy Mix. As Luke said, maybe the best bantamweight we have in this world today. Patchy, this run you are on of late, this 6-fight win streak, but really the last 5 in particular, you're a different man. You're super elite. I have no idea where your ceiling actually is, which has got to be a great place to be when you hear us keyboard warriors always try to break down your game. How'd you do it? How you feeling right now on top of the world?
I feel great, man. You know, I'm on top of the world, like you said. I feel like I'm breaking in. I'm tapping into the diehard, you know, the people that really know the sport. They're kind of seeing, you know, how special I am. It's not just this last 6 fights, you know. I've had like I think 31 between amateur and professional fights, and I've won 30 of them. I'm 1 round removed from winning, you know, every fight I've ever been part of. So, you know, I think it's, you know, a testament of like just the years of, you know, I've been putting in work so long. And, you know, right now I feel like, you know, it's my time, you know, 2 weeks, I'm going to put this guy to sleep again. And I'm going to punch that record to 20-1.
Oh, hell yeah. Let's talk about the shirt right there, Patch. Look at this. Look at this. The GOAT on there. That's a message to
man.
us, isn't it?
Yeah, man, you know, you got to support. Tatiana actually got me this shirt. So, you know, I wanted to rep it in the interview. You know, I like it. So.
All right, I want to ask you one
right now.
more here about your startup here. PFL absorbing the Bellator roster. You're in the Bellator International Championship Series. We'll see you in Paris, as I mentioned. How has that transition process been for you as a champion fighter? And were you kind of given the opportunity to pick your lane in terms of PFL having, I guess, 3, 4, 5 different sort of divisions underneath their banner?
Yeah, I didn't really get to pick my lane because for bantamweight, they don't have 135-pound division. So I didn't get to get like a super fight similar to the other divisions. And I didn't, you know, obviously they went to Saudi Arabia and they did an event there. So I didn't get a chance to go there. And obviously I'm not going in the tournament because they don't have bantamweight. So I stuck with Bellator, you know, in my own lane over here and just, you know, decided to defend my belt. And it just so happened it was going to be a rematch against the number 4 ranked guy in Maga because he's coming off a win himself.
Patchy, to what extent are you excited for this bout? I've noticed that one thing that's happened with a lot of the Bellator guys, especially like you, the elite ones that came over,
Yeah.
a lot of rematches happening. How do you feel about it?
A lot of rematches, man. I seen it. I think Liz Carmouche rematched that other
Velasquez.
girl for the 3rd time. Yeah, there's like 4 or 5 rematches I seen. So, you know, I wasn't sure what to make of it, but you know, I make champ money, so you know, I'm just excited to fight, and I'm looking at it as a complete different fight. I think Maga was one of my hardest fights that I've ever prepared for. You know, I was very nervous going into that fight, and now I just look at it as a whole new fight, and I have a chance to show off a lot more skills that I've been working on. I think when I fought him 18 months ago, I feel like, you know, I'm a lot better now. So I'm very excited to show my arsenal. I think we only fought for 7 minutes, you know. We got a, you know, fresh 25 minutes here, and you know, I'm coming out guns blazing, everything.
Is just because I'm curious, is 145 a possibility for you?
Yeah, 145 is a possibility. You know, whatever kind of excites, you know, whatever excites the fans, you know, whatever excites me, you know. Obviously, I'm going in this division and I'm on my way around it. You know, I'm going to lap it. I fought everyone in the top 5 already. So, you know, after this rematch, I don't know what's going to be next for me. And, you know, I could see 145 in the future. You know, I know Patricio Pitbull has the belt up there. I could see, you know, obviously the last guy I just finished has a win over him, 5 rounds to nothing. I could see myself going maybe, there's other PFL fighters at 45 over there. Braga just got a nice win. Pineda won the tournament last year. Let's see how Brendan Loughnane does this year. There's some big, um, there's exciting fights for me everywhere, so definitely at 135 or 145.
So here's one of my questions. Like when I watch you compete, especially after that run you had to win the tournament, I was like, dude, this guy, I mean, if he's not the best bantamweight, I mean, this is just absolutely obliterating people. And like when you do something like that, your mind as a fight fan begins to think like, what's possible? Let me ask this
Yeah.
question: has PFL or anyone who works in the Bellator situation currently, have they laid out a vision for you how they see your year or next 2 years going?
No, more so my manager does that, Ali. I guess with everything being so new, I don't really have I've had my vision for the last previous 2 years. It was to win the Grand Prix. It was to, viciously knock out Rufián Stotts. It was to win the undisputed belt because I knew Sergio had it. So now I don't really know my vision right now. I guess it's just I already have the most finishes in bantamweight history. I have the most submissions in bantamweight history. I'm just gonna add to my list. I want to defend this belt, as many times as I can and finish anybody that they put me across from. So, I guess Ali's, the one to really create my landscape over the next year, who I'm gonna fight or, where I'm gonna go with this.
It's a beautiful backdrop behind you. What state are we catching you
It's Las
in?
Vegas, right? You're
I'm
good
in
with the
Vegas,
Extreme
man,
Couture.
Yeah, I live
Loving
in
it.
Vegas right now, man. Yeah, so I'm just in my backyard hanging out. I got a couple sessions in a little bit, and I leave for Paris in 11 days. So it's the end of my camp now.
Well, I mentioned we always knew of your dangerous ability, your submission game, but man, this streak, when you go through Gallagher, Horiguchi, you put Magomedov to sleep, you flying knee Stotts. I mean, you took out Sergio Pettis. It's like, damn. Like
Yeah, bro.
sometimes you look back on that though, Patchy, and there's like something changed along the way. Did you change training? Was there a mindset change? Was there anything that
Yeah,
really helped fuel this?
yeah. So like I guess just money and being able to once I got in the Grand Prix, I was fighting in Bellator for not much, not crazy money. I fought for the title. My first fight, I came up short. I actually took that fight on like 3.5 weeks notice after he had pulled out the first fight because of COVID. They rebooked us. I kind of wasn't ready. I took the fight. That's how I ended up getting my first loss, and I had to go back to making just like contender money. And it wasn't a lot, it wasn't crazy money. So when they put me in the Grand Prix, and I actually had met Tatiana prior to that, and I just took like fighting more serious, because the opportunity, to make millions of dollars was, huge. And I took it and I just went all in, kind of trained like a part-time fighter for a lot of fights, not part-time, but just not all the way all in. I was probably like 80% in. So I just kind of changed my life, and I took off from Buffalo. I moved to Las Vegas. I stopped doing camps at places. I just came strictly here and changed my life to training every single day. I don't do training camp anymore. I just train like this for the last 3 years, and I think that's what changed it. But these special victories and all this stuff over the last, my couple four or five fights, I really don't even think that's like, the people that really truly know me, they see me in the gym, man. I compete with the world's best from 135 to all the way up to 170. And every single person that's ever seen me compete or train, they know I'm the best in the world at 135. It's not even a question. Um, you know, I I feel like the only two people that are up there could be is me and Marab. We did a fight simulation of 5 rounds last week, 5 5s in a row. I think that like, me and him are at the top.
Wow, how'd you deal with that cardio? I mean, that guy's got
A
gas
lot of
tanks.
cardio.
Yeah, we both got a lot of cardio too. So I'm looking to show that. I'm looking to show that in 2.5 weeks myself. Just I finish a lot of guys, but when I'm prepped and I'm ready, I could go for 10 rounds. So I'm
Love
excited to
it.
show, the evolution in my own game and just prove I feel like my statistics, my stats, they speak for themselves, but I'm just looking to add to that. And 20-1 with 16 finishes. I've barely ever lost rounds. So I'm just looking to I'm going to be a 3-time world champion in 2.5 weeks in Paris. And I'm bringing my my girl, my entire family, all my friends there. So I'm excited for the show. It's going to be my show, Bellator 303. It's going to be surrounded by me, around me, and being the main event now, rightfully so. I feel like it just has to be a special performance.
Sure, yeah, Usman Nurmagomedov pulling out of that, so now you're the featured bout for sure. You mentioned Tatiana Suarez, your significant other, and you mentioned that as sort of meeting her, developing that relationship being a big part of your career. When you get two alphas, when iron sharpens iron, not just in preparation, but in the day-to-day mental, what advantage is that?
It's a huge advantage. She's an Olympic athlete. One of the best wrestler ever to grace. I think women's MMA. So, being with her is, the training regimen, the discipline, and more so like the mindset is, I try to take those qualities from her, and she supports me through, my good days of training, my bad days of training. Uh, even outside of training, she supports me through my life. So it's important, I feel, to have someone like that, being a champion myself, I feel like she's already, if it weren't for her injury, she'd be a multi-time world champion already. And without a doubt, she's going to be the UFC world champion. So, just having her support and, you know, uh, being able to work together with someone like that, it's a huge advantage for me when I feel like my preparation, getting ready for these bouts, getting ready for these fights. I feel like my last 3 fights, I probably could have done those all in a night. I think there were like 3 rounds, total or something, 15 minutes total. So I think like the team that I surrounded myself around, and not just that, but my significant others, obviously, the huge support system that I have helps me perform.
Yeah, Luke, she's going to be a problem for Whaley. I want you to know
I
that.
have no
I
doubt.
want
I
you to know
know.
that.
No, not a single doubt. Patchy,
Yeah.
what would you say in the last 3 years has been, when you assess your own game, what has been the biggest area of development? I'm not saying the best part of your game, but the one that's made the biggest change.
The biggest change was leaving Jackson Wink and then kind of coming out to Vegas. And at the end of my tenure at Jackson Wink, I think I was like 7-0, and then I fought for the Bellator World Title out of Jackson. I was 7-0 with 7 finishes or something in a row, and I fought for the title. And I was just like a grappler that could only kind of grapple. I never really developed my striking. So then I moved here. Right before I had moved here, though, for my world championship fight, I worked with Six Gun Gibson, and I was developing right then and there. Like for that camp solely, it was a short one. It was just a couple months I was able to work with them. But when I moved here, I stuck with my my development and my striking and my overall game, and I just trained like a madman. So now, like, I just don't. I'm world class on the ground, but I'm world class on the feet too. I light up lightweights, that are fucking world class. I light up a lot of, a lot of people. So I think the development in my overall game, blending the striking with my grappling, and then also like, taking my grappling to the next level. Training with like Mikey Musamichi, Nicky Ryan, J Rod, all these Hanato Canuto, Andy Varala. I train with the world's best in jiu-jitsu, and I scrap with all these guys. I'm one of the world's best in jiu-jitsu too. So it's like having these outlets to train with all these, the top level grapplers and fighters. It's just, Las Vegas has changed my life over the last 3 years, and I've really been able to take advantage of all the sessions, man. I could get, 3 or 4 sessions every single day, Monday through Sunday, except Saturday probably, and I can pick and choose where I want to go. And, it just helps me develop.
By the way, you mentioned a couple B team guys. Do you go to B team, or does the B team come to you?
No, they were in Vegas just recently for, the ADCC trials.
Oh, yes.
But I
Mhm.
speak with, I'm real tight with, Damian Anderson. He's one of my boys, and big shout out to Damian. And then I got in with Nicky Ryan. He spent a week out here, and I roll with him every single fucking day. This kid's nasty, man. I love chopping it up with them, rolling with them, and he's like great mind, great coach for jiu-jitsu. So those guys were out here, and I plan to actually go do some training out with them guys now that they spent some time here, and I got to pick their brains because I learned so much shit from them. And then also Mikey Musamichi was out here. He was training in Ali's class, and that guy, he blew my brain. My mind was boggled just how much stuff he knows. I mean, he's like very light. I think he's the number one ranked grappler at 135 pounds in the world right now. But he's a monster. He's like the Gordon Ryan of bantamweight.
All right, so one more from me here, if I may. I have a very high opinion of your game. I think you might already be the world's best bantamweight, but just do me a solid here. If I told you today we're going to make a fight between you and current UFC bantamweight champion Sean O'Malley, how do you beat Sean O'Malley? What would you do?
I mean, do you see how Peter Yan, I think he was like 4 for 6 on takedowns, kind of broke him down, pressured him. I feel like truly, I don't think he'd last probably 10 minutes with me. You know what I mean? I'd pressure him, I put him on his back foot, and I'd take him down, and I'd smash him, and I'd break him. And if I didn't do that, I mean, we're talking about the knee he landed on Chito Vera. Look at the knee I landed on 19-1 Rufián Stotts, I took his lights out in 1 minute. I found the timing. I could understand the range. I could understand the distance, I just truly feel, I think I'm in a different league than that guy. And I think I'd finish him, Look at our stats, look at who he's fought. Look at who I fought. Look how many rounds I've lost. Look how many rounds he's lost. I just, I'm 1 round removed from 31-0. And that guy's not the guy to beat me, without a doubt.
I love the confidence right there. Okay, a couple more, and then we'll let you out of here. Should we put respect on like the greater Buffalo, Niagara Falls area, the producing you, John
Evans.
Jones, Rashad Evans, among many others? And also, I've been to Rochester a few times. You would take down a garbage plate? You move over there and maybe take one down, little.
Yeah, I know the garbage plates. I don't fuck with those, but
that's why he looks that way and I look this way, right? Yeah,
right. Not me, but Rashad Evans went to the same college as I did. I wrestled at the same school as he did for a year actually, and then I pursued MMA. I think Jones was from a couple hours away from where we're from. But yeah, man, it's cool to see. Billy Quarantillo is actually from an hour from me.
Hell yeah.
He's from right there too. He's one of my boys. I trained with him probably 6-7 years ago coming up. So it's like definitely respect on the name. We got Josh Allen, the quarterback for the Buffalo Bills. He's the pride and joy of our probably of our city right now. But they definitely got to put respect on I think my name, Bellator champion, coming out of Buffalo, New York. I feel like there could be more more love from the city.
Patchy, you just need to jump through a fiery table in the Bills
Mafia
parking lot, and then you'll get it. All right, let me close.
I do that with the Bellator belt on. I don't know, man. They might love it. They might love it.
Let me close with this, Patchy. I've never interviewed before and always wanted to, but we have talked one time before. I doubt you remember it. Do you remember the High Rollers when you took on Tim Elliott?
Yeah, we were there. We met you.
And you won in like 40 seconds.
I remember meeting you guys. I don't remember it, though.
Well,
I remember,
let me tell
you guys there, though.
Patchy, they're passing around those gimmicks, those joints.
No. They were passing around pre-rolls.
I know, and they're like, Luke's got 18 of them in his pocket, and the whole building is filled with smoke, and it's the greatest night of our lives. And you walk by, and I'm like, Patchy, tap that motherfucking ass. And you looked at me as if I had 8 heads, and I deserved it, Patchy. Yeah. So sorry to break your concentration. In that
it was awesome, man. I didn't like that little weasel Tim Elliott either, so I was glad to choke him out. You know what I mean? I was super glad to choke him out for some reason. I don't know why. And he keeps commenting about the Archuleta rematch, Should bring him to Vegas and choke him out to get a little kid.
Did you, Jose, did you have a contact high? Because I had a fucking contact high when I walked in that place.
I think I honestly smoked a couple of joints before I choked that little kid out.
We could have been hanging with this guy a long time ago.
What the fuck are we
doing?
Man,
you could have. 100%.
There he is.
All right, next time we're in Vegas, we're going to make something happen
for you.
You guys
hit me up. You guys hit me up.
All right, your career might end with a Bellator title, PFL title and $1 million and a UFC title, maybe?
Possible?
Man, I want all the titles. You know, I could get, I could be the first male, I think, to get the three, I guess. But just right now, I got the Grand Prix belt, the interim belt, the undisputed belt. So I got 3 Bellator belts in there. I want to get my 4th belt. I think they kind of reconfigured it now with PFL and the Bellator. If I seen it on their last event in Ireland. So I want a new belt. That's 4 belts in about 13 months or something. So I'm happy.
There it is. We'll see you May 17th, Bellator 303 in Paris, the rematch with Magomedov. Patchy Mix, thank you for the time, man.
Thank you, Patchy.
Go kick some ass.
Thank you guys, bro.
Yeah.
I love your support always, guys.
We have a high opinion of you. We expect big things.
It's not just because we're high. That's Patchy Mix right there. All right.
Thank you, brother.
By the way, love him shouting out Billy Q, friend of the program. Right?
Billy Q is a friend of the program. We need to get back to UFC 301 talk very quickly, BC. Let me do this here, if I may. By the way, the UFC is returning to Brazil. Obviously, UFC 301 for another weekend for a UFC pay-per-view. They have what I would consider to be a very respectable card that is worth your attention. I certainly think very highly of the main event for UFC 301. So here's what we're going to do. We have teamed up with DraftKings Sportsbook, as we always do, to bring you closer to the action. BC, right now, all new customers who bet $5 will get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Are they not?
That is right, Luke. New customers can bet just $5 on any fight this weekend at UFC 301 and receive $200 in bonus bets instantly. This is a great-ass deal. Don't miss out.
Certainly isn't. Okay, so stay in on the action. Use your $200 in bonus bets on DraftKings same-game parlays for a shot at an even bigger payout. Combine multiple bets together from the same fight, including total rounds and, of course, method of victory. The more bets you combine, BC, the more you can win.
So our final instructions, download the DraftKings Sportsbook app. How about right now?
Do it now.
And use our code COMBAT with a K. That's KOMBAT. And the crown, by the way, is yours. Luke, you were crowning earlier like the King of England, but that's a different type.
I'm going to take a dump in your sink next time I'm at your place. BC, I want to talk about this fight again with Steve Erceg and Alexandre Pantoja. Here is the issue. I listed some of the other fights that have gotten some of the fans' ire, I should say. So, for example, UFC 208, Holly Holm versus Jermaine Durandamy. I looked this up. Steve Erceg has 3 fights in the UFC. 2 of them were on prelims, one of them very early prelims. One was on a main card. The only main card fight he was on was at an Apex event. So now he's going to be headlining a pay-per-view in a foreign country where they don't even speak English. It's a huge task. So I understand why the fans might be somewhat upset, or at a bare minimum asking themselves, does this card have the requisite depth? Here's another part to it. Jose Aldo is in the co-main event, returning out of retirement against Jonathan Martinez.
Yes.
But if you actually look at who's ranked, there are no fighters inside the main card who are ranked in single digits. You have Erceg at 10, you have Anthony Smith at 10, and the champion in Alexandre Pantoja is actually above the rankings. They're not listed. So it's not like you don't have quality fighters, but the amount of quality relative to obviously coming off of 301, it would just be disingenuous to say there's not a big difference. There's a substantial difference.
And look, I'm not going to do some big, this thing sucks. Let's show up in another Dana video. We just want consistency, right? Like, I get that this is the hangover from 300, so, it is what it is, right? We do get Jose Aldo back. It was supposed to be Dominic Cruz. That would have been interesting, but this fight is also...
the Aldo fight better.
This fight is also kind of interesting against Jonathan Martinez, but we just want consistency. 299 was great, right? 298 was great. 300 was great. I'm fired up for the Saudi main event coming up. But I get upset, not just at these Apex Fight Night cards. We're going to talk about this one that was on Saturday, getting less and less where you need to see it. I mean,
you don't need to see it
at all. I don't want to see the pay-per-views get there. I know this is just the 300 hangover pay-per-view card. They loaded up 300. I get it. But we want to see consistency because, Luke, I want to say that this is the end of it and we'll be back to normal business. But, dude, the Conor McGregor undercard for UFC 302 or 303, right? Which one?
303.
303, June 29th in Vegas with, is it Roundtree versus Jamal Hill in the co-main event?
I actually like that fight.
Okay, I like that fight, just like I like Erceg versus Pantoja.
Yeah.
But Erceg versus Pantoja shouldn't be a pay-per-view main event with a card that week below it, and that fight shouldn't be the co-main event of International Fight Week, just like I didn't think Hill versus Pereira should have been the 300 main event. That card worked out. Sometimes cards overachieve, whatever. It's not my point to be a hater. You just want to see consistency across the board, don't you?
Fair enough.
Fair
Pantoja
enough.
versus Urseg in the main event. I think Urseg is a bit of a live dog.
Oh, hell yeah.
I don't know if I'm picking him to win, but
He's the storyline of the whole card, in my opinion.
if you are feeling a little bit froggy with your betting, I don't think it's a bad one. Co-main event, Jonathan Martinez, ranked 13 against the returning Jose Aldo. This could be the swan song for Anthony Smith at 10, taking on Vitor Petrino, who sits at 15. Obviously, they've got a gringo versus a Brazilian, which they do the entire card, essentially. Petrino, by the way, a hammer. This is going to be a big breakout fight for him, I think. Michel Pereira, who seems reformed at middleweight, taking on Ihor Potieria, who, by the way, is a weirdo but has good tattoos.
Sure.
And then our man, Paul Craig, out of Scotland, ranked 13, taking on Caio Borralho.
That's a good-ass fight.
That's a great
That's
fight.
a good-ass
So this is
fight.
what I mean. Like, you actually look at the quality of the card.
It's a very good fight night card.
That's right. This is the kind of card that Demetrius Johnson used to headline on Fox.
Or a quarterly UFC on Fox card. It's
100%.
It's, you know.
You look at this card. If I had to ask you the question, if you're a real MMA fan and you watch this, are you going to have a good time? There's a decent chance the answer is going to be yes.
You'll have a better time than you will.
But does
fight
it
night
have
card.
a lot of bouts of consequence, significance, or star power? No, it does not.
I am looking to see specifically if Urseg in his 4th UFC fight can have the type of quick turnaround that Poatan has had of late, that Prochazka had of late, winning a title in his 3rd UFC fight. That who else? Look, we've seen, or Topuria has had more fights, but he's sort of come out of nowhere and taken over. Steve Urseg could be the new champion on Saturday. It's going to be a very interesting fight. I think O'Teal's kids, by the way, play with Pantoja's kids in South Florida. Isn't that a wild MK?
That is a wild MK. All right, we are short on time, so we got to get this moving if we can. Last question on our top 5, BC. We don't have to spend a ton of time here really at all. There's really not necessarily a lot to say. The UFC was back at the Apex, and there was a couple of interesting notes about it. Alex Perez scores a quick win, obviously, over Mateus Nicolau. I think it was a big right hook.
It was a beautiful knockout punch.
It was a beautiful knockout. I don't know if this does a substantial change to the rankings, but I did want to bring this up, if I may. In the case of Perez, he hadn't won since 2020.
Was that the fight that got him the title shot?
He had I believe so. It was the one, no, yes, that's right, before he got choked out against Figgy. But he had 9 canceled bouts and then 3 losses. And so you get to this point, you're like, dude, good for him. Currently, he sits at 8 in the rankings. He'll probably go up a little bit inside to maybe the top 5. It depends because Nicolau was sitting at 5. So it does change the rankings a little bit, BC. It's a good win, I suppose, for him. He seemed so ecstatic, not just because he got the finish, but it seemed like he had exercised some demons along the way. For me, BC, the only other one of standout of note, Uros Medic got a first-round stoppage over Dirty Bird Tim Means. Tim Means has been one of these guys where if you looked at guys who had beaten Tim Means, almost all of them are very high-quality guys. Out of Albuquerque, he was with Fit NHB, which was Carlos Condit's original team.
Gave Mike Perry hell.
Gave Mike Perry, gave a lot of guys tough fights. Yeah. But he went down in the first round. He's nearly 40 years old. Good win, though, for Uros Medic. Anything else to you stand out?
Yeah, Joe Martinez, our favorite announcer, losing his voice.
I did see that.
And Charlie Arnold, FKA Charlie Caruso from WWE, had to step in admirably.
I don't know who she is.
You don't know who she is? She's filled in on First Take for ESPN. She was a WWE announcer. Does the sideline roles for some of the Fight Night cards. You don't.
Oh, I've seen her. Yes, sorry.
Yeah.
I have seen her in some of those roles for Fight Nights. I don't know her bio.
We'll see a couple of KOs and have you seen this shit from this card coming up. But if a Fight Night card happens and no one talks about it, did it actually make a noise?
It's amazing to me. Like, if you're a hardcore fan, again, you'll find some value to watch. Or if you're a gambling addict, you'll find
like Long Island Luke.
Like Long Island Luke is. I mean, he's showing up here with like casts on his arm and shit. But I mean, if you're a hardcore fight fan, if I'm being serious, there is something to like about it. But do you need to watch Apex Fight Nights in order to keep up with the sport? No.
Well,
no, you don't.
Not these, Luke. Sorry.
Not these ones, yes.
Not the Derek Lewis one coming up either. Sorry.
That one's in St. Louis. That's a different.
I'll be tuning in for New Manza. You better believe that.
Yeah, I will as well. All right, that's our top 5. Do we want to set this up?
Go for it.
All right. So the NFL draft, I believe, is now either finished or they're going to do round 7 or whatever it is. But we've been in the midst of that,
and we have been Mr. Irrelevant ×2 for a long time.
We have. Yeah. That's been really the name of the game. The reality is, there has been some talk about introducing a 165-pound division, and in fact, there's been talk about this for a long time. I've done this exercise before many, many years ago, but I've not updated it. Today, through the MK draft, We're going to build together
It's an experiment.
to build a 165-pound division in the UFC. BC and I are going to draft from 55 and now what will eventually be 75, but 70-pound weight class, to see what does it look like with a top 15 at 165 and what is your remainder at 155 and 175.
So we are not drafting our own teams or competing. What we're looking to see is if it matters. Now, you've always been on record saying you think it needs a 165-pound division. I've always been on records from the boxing standpoint of saying, no more titles. I like the way it works now. No diggity. I'd like to bag it up. Do you like that everybody's saying no diddy? I mean, everybody's saying no diddy now.
It's kind of funny.
Right.
I have to admit, it is kind of funny.
All right.
The back it up part I don't like. You know what I'm saying? I just know zippy bags for me.
Okay. So, Luke, how are we going to execute this?
All right, so here, one rule. You cannot draft a champion. So Leon has to stay at 175, and Islam has to stay at 155, which is interesting because, to me, both of those guys could move around a little bit.
Yes.
Especially Islam going up to 65. I think he'd be a great candidate. But I believe if you're a champion, you have to hold on to your weight class, and then we go from there. All right, so here's how it's going to go. You're going to get no more than 60 seconds to make a pick, and we're going to try and build a top 15.
All right.
And see what it looks like.
You going to go first, sir?
I will go first in the pick, and I will just tell you the pick is in. By the way, when they picked Jaden Daniels for the Commanders, my pants were around my ankles.
Oh, wow. Does that sound copyright?
All right, with the first pick in the MK 165-pound draft, I pick Ian Gary. Gary, I want him to go to 165 pounds. I think he works well there.
Why is he the number one pick in our draft?
I had other names, but they're all old. I wanted to introduce at the top some youth to see how it goes. BC, you're on the clock.
Yeah, that's Ian Machado Gary, by the way. All right, I watched the video from Layla where she gave 3 facts that people got wrong about her husband, okay? The guy does not live in their house, okay?
Yeah, I know. Surprised it's a bunch of bullshit.
Okay, here we go. Number 2.
You guys say the pick is in?
I was about to. The pick is in.
I love that chime.
With the second selection in the 165-pound UFC draft, your boy BC selects Benoit Saint-Denis. BS friggin' D,
Okay.
Luke. Okay.
Okay. All right. Okay, so we've got... Tell me why you picked him.
Because I do actually believe his excuses of how that fight against Poirier fell apart in the ridiculous staph infection that he fought through, like another great 165er Kevin Lee did in his Tony Ferguson title fight and almost won it too. But I think, Luke, this is actually that perfect in between for a guy with his skill set, and I think that he could win a title as it is in his own division in the moment as he gets back in the ladder. But he's young. I don't think he's shown us anywhere close to how good he's going to be. This is my guy for this.
Okay, well, based on that, I'm going to go ahead and say it. Long Island Luke, the pick is in. Third pick of the MK 165-pound draft, very simply, BC. Dustin Poirier.
Whoa.
Dustin Poirier. And I'll tell you why I'm going to go with Dustin Poirier here.
I'm surprised. So high.
So high. Well, I mean, there's other names you can go to, but I'm going to pick him here. And the reason why is, one, you're adding a little bit of seniority to the division. I think no matter what, listen, he could beat Islam, and we'll see how that goes. I don't think that's the likeliest outcome. I think the likeliest outcome is Islam's like me and Khabib are bad style matchups for him. I think that's probably true. And so I don't think he's done, but he might be done at 155. You put a 165-pound division, he cuts less weight, he's already a big puncher. I think that carries up. I think he's a great addition to 165. BC, you are on the clock.
Okay, wow. I didn't know you could pick him that high, Luke, because I don't think he's got a lot left, and I don't know if he can handle the wrestling at 165.
The question, though,
You're going to bring some welterweights down that are going to take him the frick down.
That's fine, but here's the problem. Remember, you got to drain 155 a little bit to make 165. I can pick bigger names, but what does that leave at 155? So you're, again, if you're the UFC and you're managing this matriculation to the center, you got to leave some meat on the bone at 175.
Yeah.
You got to leave some meat on the bone. Dustin Poirier, again, if he loses to Islam, what is left for him at 55? Nothing. But at 65, it's literally a brand new opportunity.
Would you say that's why neither of us have taken Shavkat Rakhmonov?
I'm also not sure he can make the weight. That's the other issue.
Interesting stuff. All right. With the next pick, I believe, let me...
Wait, you got to say the pick is in.
Yeah, the pick is in. Okay, we got it. The pick is in, guys. The pick is in. With the next pick in the 165-pound draft, your boy BC is going to go into the wallet and take out... Luke, how much money do you think I have in my wallet right now?
$5.
I've got $1. $1. Money Moicano.
Oh, Hanato Moicano. Okay, let's get an explanation for why you're taking him.
I think he'll fit that middle of that weight class perfectly, where he won't have to cut down as far, has the jiu-jitsu to handle himself in any area. And I think he might be somebody with the added weight that has even more in the tank for 5-round fights, Luke.
I still wonder if 55 is the best for him. I don't know because of the wrestling. I don't know how 65 is going to go for him. But he is ambitious. He wants the smoke. People like him. He could be a big name for that division. There's some ways in which that could go well.
He's rebranded himself as a brawler, but yet that
he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu.
That ground game is net. Who was just telling us that somebody I heard recently say, it was Jorge Masvidal that told me that like Moicano taps everybody at ATT. I mean, everybody on the regular like that. He's a force in the gym in that regard. I think he's just kind of figuring out how good he can potentially be.
All right, my time is almost up here, so the pick is in. With the 5th pick in the draft, I'm going to go Colby Chaos Covington.
Oh, how dare you.
Adding him to, I think he'd be a great addition to 65.
I think he's done, Luke. He's done.
Colby Covington shit the bed at 170 or now we're going to be 175. If everyone's going to move to 175, I actually think that's too big for him. I actually feel like he could have always made 65. I think he could actually make even lower than that. And you bring in veteran name. You bring in a guy who's going to talk a lot. Him versus Poirier at 65 is a huge fight that you can make to build that division. Dude, him versus Ian Gary, you can make that for the title to start it off. There's a lot you can do with Colby Covington being added to this division. Go ahead.
Do you want to recap how many picks we're at? And
we are at 5 picks. You're going to be pick number 6.
Okay, here we go. With the 6th pick.
You got to tell him the pick is in.
The pick is in. With the 6th pick in the 165-pound mock draft experiment, your boy BC selects Gilbert Burns.
Oh, you stole mine, you piece of trash.
Luke, we used to say, how the hell did that guy ever make lightweight? And even though he's put a couple losses together, he's one of those 37-year-olds who's, I think, still a threat in this game. Putting him in a new division, I think, could reset that in a lot of ways, Luke. And I also expect him to continue in certain matchups to lean on the ground game more and more, a la the way Glover Teixeira was able to extend his game deeper into those 30s. I think Gilbert's instantly a top 5 threat in that division.
Very good. Okay, I already know who my next pick is going to be, and this one is going to shock the system.
Wow.
Are you ready?
Oh, wow.
Pick is in. Luke. With the 7th pick in the mock draft here at Morning Combat, I'm going to go with Conor McGregor. Can't go wrong with this one. If he wins, becomes the 3rd champion, or I should say the person to win third weight class title. Obviously, the weight is a perfect one for him. I actually think it brings him down just enough to make him disciplined to meet that weight. Dude, what can I tell you? Him versus Benoit Saint Denis. That's not an action fight. That's an action fight. Him versus Poirier. You could do a 4th one of those fucking guys. Moicano, you probably wouldn't do. Covington, you could. But you have so many good options. By the way, if they want to move Chandler up here as well, they could do that on top of it. Again, I think his time at 155 is probably over. 165, new lease on life. Give me Conor McGregor.
Can you recap the picks so far?
Yes, let me write this down. So far, here's who we have. We have Ian Gary, Benoit Saint Denis, Dustin Poirier, Hanato Moicano, Colby Covington, Gilbert Burns, and now Conor McGregor's your 7th pick. You, sir, have pick number 8.
Okay, it's in. The pick is in, guys. With the 8th pick in the draft, Mike Malott from Canada.
Okay. That was a bit of a curveball, but I'll take it. Tell me why you're doing that.
I mean, I know that he kind of fell apart and lost that Neil Magny fight in what was supposed to be a big setup and operation for him. But I think that the run there, look, some of this is giving guys new life, right? In a new division with a new set of guys in there.
Yes.
I think he's big. We're moving up from lightweight is not going to be that issue. I'm sorry, he's already at welterweight. I'm just saying, like, look, we're asking these welterweights to cut 5 more pounds.
Yes.
Down.
Or go to 175.
Sure. In that regard, I want to see what this kid could look like at that weight. So, excuse me, I'm thinking he was a lightweight there for a second, but
no, he is definitely
a full-fledged welterweight.
Definitely a full-fledged welterweight. Okay, in that case, and it's a good pick because you're also not killing the top.
Right, we're not picking Arman Sarukian. He's basically going to be fighting for the title soon.
Yeah, so I'm not taking him. So, trying to think about who else now that I want to take because of who you picked. All right, I've got a pick. Pick is in. With the 9th pick in the MK mock draft, I'm going to take Hands of Steel, Jeff Neal, baby.
Oh, wow.
Jeff Neal.
See, the reason I didn't take him is because he's missed weight at welterweight 3 times.
Oh, shitballs. Well, I can't take it back now. Fuck it. All right, there you go. I fucked that one up then.
Well, not necessarily. You can switch it out if you need to, Luke.
You know what? We'll see how the draft looks at the end.
Okay.
So that would give you pick number 10, I believe,
Yes.
BC, if you're ready to go, or whenever you are ready to go.
The pick is in, guys. Curveball effect from Brazil, Luke.
Okay.
Gabriel Bonfim.
Ooh, Gabriel Bonfim. Okay, you're going outside some of the traditional rankings here. Tell me why you took him.
Well, I'm trying to fill out rankings in a new division without completely looting it. And I know that his original rise was sort of muted of late. So why don't we put him in a new division, Luke? Going to be an absolute submission threat, as we know, but new lease on life. Let's see if he can reinvent himself here.
Okay, so with that being said, I like the way you're picking these, and I'm going to pick this one very strategically. It sounds like I'm not, but trust me, I am. My pick is in. 11th pick in the draft, Michael Chandler.
I was just going to take him.
Michael
Good
Chandler,
one.
because he obviously doesn't have a ton of time left.
And this was made for him. This division was made for him.
The guy walks around 190 plus.
Yes, yes.
He can easily make this weight. It'd be I think he would have some life left. He'd have some big bombs. There's stuff you can do with him. Obviously, you can, if you wanted to do the one against Eaton Gary, you could do that one as well, because they're kind of teammates, sort of, kind of. But also, you could do it against Conor McGregor. You could do it against Colby Covington. I mean, there's a million different ways you can make that work. Also against, Michael Chandler versus Renato Moicano at 165. Hell yeah, I'll take that one. So there you go.
Right,
Michael Chandler, you have the 12th pick in the draft, sir.
With the 12th pick, the pick is now in. Long Island style. Steamroller.
I love
Matt
that pick.
Frivola, who could be a outside banger in this division.
Yes, he could. Tell me why you picked him.
Again, sometimes it's just that same idea, Luke, of getting a new set of potential opponents. He came pretty far up the rankings in lightweight before leveling out. He's in his 30s, so we got to get after it now. So let's get up there. Let's not worry as much about that weight cut, and let's come out throwing big, Luke. All right?
Okay. All right. Now, that makes it kind of tough for me because I'm not exactly sure where to go with this one.
How many we have left?
Just 3.
Okay.
Just 3. I'm going to... This is a tough one. I will go... Man. Now we're getting to like the meat and potatoes of this whole thing.
I can take your pick from you, Luke. I can just take it. I mean, I've got so many names.
Do you think Rachmanov can make 65?
He's soon for the title. He's soon for the welterweight
I
title. You
know.
can't pull him out
I
of
know.
that division.
You're right.
Same thing with Sarukian. Although I'm surprised you didn't go Sean Brady or...
Sean Brady's fucking huge.
He is huge. He is huge. He is
You know,
huge.
you know what? He probably can make it.
Or what about the tarantula, dude?
Jalen Turner. I'm not trying to drain 55 too much. I want to go back to 70 so we don't pull it out too much. So I'll tell you what. All right, pick is in. I actually think he can make it. I don't know how great it's going to go, but I think he can do it.
Future champion?
I'm going to go MVP.
Ooh, that was interesting.
MVP.
I question if he would want to cut down at this age. But
I don't. It's
he's
a
always
huge
on,
one.
He's always on weight, though, right? I mean, he's always.
I don't recall him ever meeting
Yeah.
weight. He's skinny. It's just another 5 pounds. You have to feel like it's doable.
It's a good pick.
And he doesn't have to. There's look at what we built. There's some wrestlers in here, but there's kind of ways to avoid it as well and still have great action fights.
Yes.
All right, so 2 left. Here we go.
The pick is already in. This was going to be my number 1 pick. This was going to be my number 1 pick, but I thought you'd laugh at me, so I'll do it at the end. Who is this division made for? One man. One man that came that close to winning the UFC interim middleweight title at UFC 238 when I was wearing the orange shirt in the front row in Atlanta, right? Kelvin Gastelum. Yeah,
Oh,
baby.
what?
Yeah, baby.
Dude, this fucking guy can barely make welterweight.
Okay, Luke. Okay. I think that we've always said to him, when he goes up there, Luke, we've always said the idea. Oh, wait, no, you're right. I'm thinking the division gap is the wrong way. I got to pull that back. I'm sorry.
Okay, I'll give you one. I'll give you one do-over.
Give me one. You're right. I had my weight.
Do you want me to
classes
take
off in
your
my
pick
head.
and you want to trade back in the draft? Are you ready?
No, I know who I'm ready. Here
All
we
right, go
go.
ahead.
Don't do the music again. Sorry, I screwed that one up. Patty Pimblett.
no. I actually did not see that coming. Tell me about it.
I want to inject some flavor into here. I mean, is he going to climb the lightweight rankings, Luke? Is he going to be an attraction fighter? Let's never worry about weight for him again. He just had those babies. Congratulations. Probably going to put a little dad pouch on. Let's get back after it. We need people to sell in this division too, okay?
Man, that's a big one. That's a big one.
Man,
All right.
I wanted Gastelum in this, but you're right. We're talking about middleweights
If it was
at
70,
welterweight,
85, yeah, you could do it.
I was confused.
Yeah,
in my
because if
head.
it was 7, I mean, dude, also just think about it. If there's a 65 or a 75 pound division, he's going to go 75 every time.
Sure.
All right, last pick in the draft. BC, as my consigliere, what would you recommend I take? I would probably need to take someone from 70.
Not a wartime consigliere, though.
To balance it out. What do you think? Do we think Brady can make 65?
I was thinking you should go Grant Dawson or Demiris Mogilov.
He's retired.
He is retired?
Yeah,
okay.
But Grant Dawson's not.
We didn't take Fiziev or Gamrot. Are we leaving them in the lightweight rankings, more or less?
I think I'm leaving them at lightweight.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Gamrot I thought about, but I think I'm
you
leaving
can
him.
insert Justin Gaethje if you wanted to. Unless he's in the BMF. But this is the BMF sweet spot, right? I mean,
Yeah,
165 is the BMF sweet spot in so many ways.
Fuck it. You know what? I like it. Pick is in. For the 15th pick in the MK 165-pound mock draft, I'm going to go the highlight, Justin Gaethje. Okay, BC, would you like a reading
Yes.
of how this would go? Here is our 165-pound division. We can play with this order. This is just how they were drafted, all right? But your top 15 would look something like Ian Gary, Benoit Saint Denis, Dustin Poirier, Renato Moicano, Colby Covington, Gilbert Burns, Conor McGregor, Mike Malott, which I actually like, by the way, Jeff Neal, that's the sketchy one, Gabriel Bonfim, Michael Chandler, Matt Frivola, MVP, Paddy Pimblett, and Justin Gaethje. Gotta tell you, I love this division.
First of all, it's a banger division in terms of the potential for action, but I did purposely put in some submission guys to try to round us out.
Yes, and I got some older guys and some younger guys.
We got older, we've got young. I think the greatest thing is I don't think we depleted the top 10 in either one, right? Purposely.
So here's how 55 would read absent those guys. 55 would still be Islam, Arman, Charles Oliveira, Gaethje would move over, Poirier would move over. This is assumed in a post, Islam world. Mateusz would stay, Beneil would stay, Chandler moves, Fiziev stays, Holloway stays, Renato Moicano moves, Hooker stays, Turner stays, Benoit moves, Dos Anjos stays, Bobby Green stays. You do lose some big names, but these are guys I don't know how much they have left in the game because Gaethje, Chandler, Poirier, these are all 35 and up.
Yeah.
I just don't know how much. And at 170, you would have Leon still at the top, obviously. Kamaru would stay there. Bilal would stay there. Shavkat would stay there. Colby moves. By the way, I don't think that's a problem at all.
No.
Jack De La Maddalena stays. So welterweight's still super hot up top.
And Dana's got busfuls of new Dana White Contender Series people ready to plug in for 12 and 12 with Jason House managing them.
Now, you do lose Gilbert and Ian Gary back-to-back, but then you have Sean Brady, Stephen Thompson. You lose Jeff Neal, but that's a stupid pick. But you keep Joaquin Buckley, Neil Magny. You lose MVP, but you keep Luque, and you keep Kevin Holland. I got to tell you, I don't think these are terrible hits to any of those divisions. And 165 ends up being
here's
a Gilles Zhang, let's bang each other kind of moment.
Wow. We will bang
each other.
What is your vacant title fight in this division based on those names that we
I would
put
go
together?
Connor Chandler. I would go Connor Chandler.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
But neither guy would really deserve top 3 or 4 ranking, right?
Probably not. No. Okay, no, actually, let me back up. So I would say winner of Connor Chandler, the real one, winner of that versus probably the winner of Ian Gary versus Colby Covington.
Imagine they did a Final Four, which is exactly what they did when they launched the flyweight men's division, correct?
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
exactly that. It was Ian McCall, Benavidez, Demetrius Johnson. Who was the fourth?
Urushitani.
Wow, good pull.
Yasuhiro Urushitani.
Good pull right there.
Yeah. Let me just say this. The point of this exercise is people always ask, is there room for a 65-pound division? Here is my answer. And this exercise kind of shows it. The answer is yes, BC, with a big asterisk, which is, I think you can do it if the UFC, they can't come and say, hey, you 55, hey, you 65, hey, you 75. But what they can do is if they do have a guiding hand and being like, okay, how are you feeling? Let's see who can make weight. Let's see who can't. You obviously have to sub out the Jeff Neal one. But the point I'm trying to make is, if it was a coordinated effort from the UFC, could they do it without depleting their other divisions in a substantive way? I actually think the answer is yes. They could do it.
Yes, it would. It would water down the depth a little bit, but they had to give them credit on the Dana White Contender Series. As much as we can joke about things, they are plugging in new names on the regular. These guys are quickly climbing the ladder and becoming. I mean, look at Steve Erceg right now. I mean, it's happening. Even though I don't think he came through the Contender Series, but the whole point is like they have been plugging in people of late that are making strides instantly overnight. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, they're an operation. They're a machine, Luke. This could happen if they wanted it. But
if they wanted it and they guided the process, it is absolutely doable. 100%.
Interesting. You want to like throw around some shit now?
Did we have a Commanders level draft or did we have a Panthers level draft? What do you think, guys? What do you think?
I think they're. Yeah.
Did we have a good draft or a bad draft? A good draft. Okay.
Yeah, I mean they're asleep, Luke. They're
again the dildo bong. I just don't know how this is appropriate. I'm going to tell Dan Lebitard on you guys.
Is this the best use of Jake Von Amsterdam's art right now to have him just sitting there? I mean,
just playing
he
pocket
should be
pool,
like drawing or doing something. Yeah. All right. Hey, you know what I did yesterday? Please put the
vigorously masturbate at a bus stop.
On me. Let him cook. I scoured the globe for the highs and lows, the good, the bad, the ugly, and combat sports and beyond. Got most of the videos through the censors here. The censors in that room over there.
Yeah, had the North Koreans in there.
This one's called "Have You Seen That?" Have you seen this?
Why don't you fuck up the title of this? Hey, have you seen this shit? Jesus Christ, could you fuck this up more?
Have you seen the shit in that bathroom that you left, Luke?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, here we go.
That was eons ago.
KO of the week did not come from BKFC, UFC, Golden Boy Boxing, and all of that. It came from LFA 182. Get some of that, dude.
The best part was she threw this before and it landed and the other one didn't do anything. And then she's just like, you know what? If you're not going to stop it, I'm just going to do it again.
That is a tremendous KO.
Hit her with the bop.
You know what? In women's MMA, you don't see a lot of head kick knockouts. So that
you don't see a lot of knockouts, period.
Yeah.
Much less like one-hitter quitters like this.
Luke, I'm not much of a car guy, as you know, and neither are you, by the way.
Neither am I, no.
But this one has the balls I'm looking for, and actually the shaft as well, Luke.
This is actually the bong they're smoking in the other room.
Wow.
Dude, I'm going to just drive this thing to go do errands in D.C. Oh, the underside lights?
Yeah, the Grundle lights. Let
me ask you a question. What's the most offensive place you could drive this in your town? Like think about places like you could do this.
Church parking lot. No, actually, to take that back, elementary school parking lot would be a little bit worse, right? Yeah. Wow. Okay, there you go. Hey, let's go to Knucklemania 4 from Los Angeles.
Is that the pornography you watched?
We already saw Conor McGregor get announced, but how about this throwback to the pre-fight presser, which was wild, by the way, Luke.
I did not see that.
Here is Mick Terrell and Lorenzo Hunt, who are fighting for the heavyweight title, having a debate about who's bigger.
Lorenzo says, I remember watching the fight Lorenzo put on, he was 6'3". he's not 6'3". And then he now says he's 6 foot, but like, I don't even think he's 6 foot. I mean, if we want to measure this, I've actually brought a tape measure. If Lorenzo wants to take off his Cuban heels.
If you want to measure something.
You want to take off your shoes and take them lifts out of your shoes, I bet you about 5'10", 5'11".
We can, if you really want to measure something, since you brought a ruler, we can figure out who the heavyweight champ is. What the fuck are you talking about?
I'll throw my name in the hat for the measurement.
This is much better than Kimbo and Dada accusing each other of having baby nuts.
Yes, and then one of them having
I will tell you, like,
arrest.
people say that this sport is homoerotic, and then the fans get mad, and I'm like, it's the most homoerotic sport.
Okay, but I think Francis Ngannou wins this debate. There we go. All right, let's keep based on things we've heard.
Based on wild accusations.
Speaking of Knucklemania 4, the fight of the night without question, former boxing brawler Alfredo Angulo.
Dude, what the fuck?
Against Jeremiah Riggs. Angulo made his debut. He's in the black hair, and he got taken to the woodshed for about 60 seconds, Luke. Did you see
By the way,
this?
you are allowed, I think, to collar tie. You're
Yes.
not allowed to grab his fucking hair.
Oh, this was like a fight you'd see at the back of like a Applebee's, Luke. You know?
You've never seen a fight this good at the Applebee's.
Oh my God, look at this develop. So Angulo getting his face caved in over here.
By the way, Angulo has previously fought Canelo Alvarez.
On a pay-per-view, by the way, yes. He knocked down Arislandi Lara twice back when he was untouchable.
Look, this dude is tough as shit balls. Look at this. Look at this dude. The Geico caveman.
I mean, this was just... Not,
You think he's out. Keep watching. Keep watching. Angulo is tough in a way that you just are not. Look at this dude come back. Look at him storming back.
Oh, wow. I mean, this might be the greatest fight in BKFC history. Seriously.
It's like this is the BK equivalent of Yeah, dude. This is the BKFC equivalent of Diaz versus Paul Daly.
Yes, great fight.
Right,
One of the
this is
greatest
their
in Strike
equivalent.
Force
Because it's
history.
only, 2-minute rounds in BKFC? Like
Yeah.
short rounds, you know?
All right, we mentioned Todd Duffy had a heavyweight fight against Ben
Didn't
Rothwell.
go great.
It only lasted 43 seconds. Duffy got knocked down a second time on more of a push, claimed he had a shoulder stinger. And Luke, there was about 4,000 tweets comparing him to Bob Sapp. Did he take a dive? What happened here?
So I've known Todd Duffy. I don't think he's the kind of guy to take a dive. But I guess what I would say is, as somebody who likes and cares about him, if you're getting injured this easily in a fight,
40 seconds in,
you know, and without what I would call significant contact, then I don't know if this is the thing to keep doing.
yeah. Dan Marigliata was the referee. You think he's taken down a like an ice
Dude,
cream
you think
stand
I'm blowing up
outhouse?
the shitter? I
Yeah.
mean, the shitters that he has does absolutely annihilate it.
Big John in Tokyo
Dude,
levels.
he
right?
he anguloed those things.
Yeah. All right, let's go to Mike Perry. He knocks out Thiago Alves in the main event in a very Alves.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I grew up around Portuguese people. I can call him Alves. Brazilian's close enough, right?
It is pretty close.
Yeah, there
They
you
do
go.
speak Portuguese.
Mike had a great post-fight rant, very emotionally fueled. Let's listen in.
Platinum Mike Perry, that is 5-0 in the BKFC. You got that done very, very quickly, proving why you are the king of violence. There's a lot of folks out here tonight watching you. What do you got to say to them?
My easiest fight yet, just like I said it would be. I'm the undisputed king of bare knuckle. I'm #1 pound for pound. Fuck anybody who think differently. I'm the king in this bitch. Come and see me, bro. If you want the smoke, if you want the money, I want all the smoke and all the money. You can't beat me, it's my money. Give me the bag. Let's go, David Feldman. Let's go, Marcus Cypher, Young LA. Shout out to everybody that came through, all the fans. We in this bitch. I've been screaming all night. I've been ready for this. It's lifelong. Come and see me, bro. I'll fuck you up here.
Mike.
David Feldman's face after
His
that.
face like, you don't mean me, dude.
Yeah.
You're like,
Dude, I hope they get somebody to come. I'm so proud of Mike. I'm so happy for him.
dude, he has found a lane and he has owned it, and it has worked so well for him. Good for him.
Well, did you ever get a song stuck in your head and you just can't get it out, no matter if you like the song or
Tukey
not?
loved Baby Shark for like a year.
Yeah, so did Callum Walsh, and but that was for different
fucking
reasons.
lame, though.
Okay, sorry about that. Mike Perry talking with Helen Yee Sports after the win. He had a song stuck in his head.
Hey, yo, real talk, Ryan Garcia's, I'm blessed, highly favored. I'm blessed, highly favored. That shit hard, bro. And he went out there and beat an undefeated fighter. I'd like to see the Ryan Garcia versus Tank without the hydration clause. That'd be valid. Or I'll fight both of them at the same time. What?
First walk-off interview.
Thank you, Helen.
What a polite
Mike's the
gentleman
man.
right there.
Shouts to Mike Perry.
So he's referencing the song that won't go away, Ryan Garcia's victory lap song.
It goes away pretty easily. I just don't listen to it.
It's catchy. It is a little catchy, okay?
I don't think that
I'm
it is.
blessed. Highly favored. Ryan had a victory lap tour that was all over the country. Let's
He earned
check
it.
in.
He earned it.
Here's King Rye showing off his hand speed. No, he's going to show it off to Donald Trump. But a lot of people in the messages are saying that's not Trump. That's the body double. What the hell are they talking about?
I don't
Watch
know.
this.
I don't know.
Uh-oh. Let's see what you got, fast hands.
Donald Trump 2024.
Yeah, that's not Trump.
No, it's supposed to be. There's a picture of them, and it looks like Trump if he was 30 years younger. Did he have plastic surgery or something?
I don't think so.
All right, a lot of people were like, "That's definitely."
Hey,
not.
Long Island Luke, is that Captain Orange Man? Yeah, I don't. And also, he wears red ties, not blue ties. Like,
Maybe
he always wears.
maybe it's like a impersonator.
Also, isn't he in fucking New York because he has like all of his court case
Dude,
shit
Ryan's
going on?
all over the country right now. In fact, he caught up, Luke, with Donald Trump's favorite fighter.
Then it's hit. So then I can go. Okay. And you would not expect it. No. So it's either head or which one do you want? I don't know. Or it's and then if I see you lean back, it's so you jumping into it like are you putting the 440? Are you rotating the leg? Okay. So now it's your head is covered. Okay.
Dude, they went and just had drinks after this and got obliterated. He remembers none of this.
Yeah, but next time Jorge pulls up on him, like at the buffet line or whatever, Colby, the new 165.
Again, it wasn't that Jorge hit him. He allegedly hit him.
Yeah, Usman was the buffet line. Gotcha.
And the other point is like, dude, he stole on him like he wasn't looking, like it was a sucker punch.
Yeah.
You know. Also, like I will laugh though if Colby wins his next fight via left hook. I'll have to eat some more crow.
Well, King Rye went from New York, Miami to Boulder.
Thank you for letting me join the team. I appreciate you. You got his jersey? What you got? Yeah, I'm ready to go.
Let me see. Oh, no. You ain't gonna talk to me like that. Teach me something, man. Come teach me something.
All right,
teach me something. I'm a lefty now. I'm a lefty.
Squared up.
Don't do it. I seen it with the eyes.
I like it. Do you want to keep the angle on?
Time out.
Dude, this is like, say what you will about Ryan Garcia. He's cashing in on this.
He's doing what Bud Crawford did after he won,
Yeah.
and just kind of rubbing elbows with people he
Which
normally
is
doesn't
what
rub elbows with.
boxing in the 90s. Remember when Riddick Bowe won? He's suddenly going around to all the heads
Everywhere.
of state all
That's
around
right.
the world and
That's right,
everything. Then Ryan took his girlfriend of the moment. I say girlfriend of the moment because there was a TMZ article a couple days ago that Ryan has 2 major girlfriends at the moment. One of them he took to the jewelry store.
Can I record this?
Crazy.
This is the best ring you could possibly get.
Get in the whole world. In the whole world.
How much is the ring?
The total cost is 1.5 million and a little change is this 63,550.
There you
What's
go.
the whole total?
Okay, I'm gonna call bullshit on that.
There's other videos where she's wearing it and he's like,
No, not that he didn't pay $1.5 million or that he bought it for her. I'm not saying that, but dude, my first job out of college, I worked security at Cartier. I've transported a pen that was $1 million. I am certain you can buy a ring for more than 1.5 anywhere. I don't
I'm
think that's
sure, but he just bought that for a girl that he might not even be exclusively dating.
I know, but the lady is like, "Oh, this is the most expensive ring in the world." No, it's not.
Oh, I got you.
No, it's not.
Yeah. So that's interesting, Luke. You know, the friends with benefits, right? That's a big benefit.
Here's what I don't get about Ryan Garcia. It's like, dude, he could probably pull women like that without having to spend the 1.5.
Well, let's hear his philosophy on this.
Hey, baby, like, I'm gonna be real with you. I'm not gonna be that perfect boyfriend. It's impossible for me at this point in my life. You know, I want to be honest with you. Like, I'm probably gonna talk to girls. You know, I don't know if I'm gonna fuck them. I might not. I will tell you. We can negotiate on how that looks. You know, stuff like that. And she'd be like, okay, but just use a condom. I said, oh, of course. And if I don't, I'll tell you, and like we'll be communicative, and I'll always make sure that I'm clean and I won't have no diseases, and we'll be straight. And look at, maybe down the line.
That was. Can I just
Maybe. Wait. Maybe down the line, you know, maybe I am that guy. Maybe at 30, 35, maybe I'm that guy. Maybe I am. Maybe I will be. But until then, I'll let you know. And when I know, I'll know. I love you, baby. If you don't want this, it's okay.
Do you know how much leverage you have to have that kind of conversation with another
Oh
woman?
my God! Well, she has 1.5 million reasons not to care, apparently, with that beautiful
Right.
ring. But wow, he's
I've never had that. Listen, I'm be clean. I won't have diseases. I'm gonna go fuck the girls. I'm gonna go fuck the world.
Okay.
And then if you don't like it, that's too bad. And if you do, be along for the ride.
King Rye is living the life. Let's go to the UFC Apex card that no one watched, Luke. Let's fresh off completing the tour of Tafa. Austin Lane got sent to hell by Johanna Denise. Is that how you say that?
Yeah, Jonata. Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, Austin Lane, he's got good athlete, got some big power.
Former NFL
very,
player.
Very hittable, yeah.
Yeah,
very
Greg
hittable.
Hardy took him and the Dana White. Look at this. Just bleed, baby. Look at
Yeah,
that.
Just clothe yourself.
All
How
right,
about
you
that?
mentioned David Onama and Jonathan Pierce did their best Holloway Gaethje impersonation. This is the final 10 seconds.
I tried to explain to people, it's like, guys, if they're going to fight like this, by the way, Onama missed weight, so not even eligible for a bonus, and still fighting this way. It's like, guys, they're going to fight this way whether there's 300K bonus on the line or not. This is my point.
No, you were wrong on that. It brought up the energy and the people going after it. You were wrong.
There's
you just got to take the L.
Let me just ask.
People want me to take the Ryan Garcia L. I'll take the I picked against him. I won't take the other L. You should take this L.
There is no L. Dude, what is the evidence for it? What is the evidence for it? I keep asking, what is the evidence for it? And no one can tell me what it is.
That incredible card that overachieved, even though it was so deep,
Dude,
it was incredible.
Yes, the card was great. It was mostly Max and Justin. Max has fought that way previously anyway.
Yeah, but it was Prohatska. It was Money Moicano. It was.
But these are action fighters who do this no matter what.
Okay.
These are action fighters who do this. There is no evidence that it actually changed the way people fought. People want to imagine that there is because they've told themselves there is, but there isn't any.
The evidence was the fight card, but
there is no evidence.
Well, Luke, you don't believe in a lot of things that you can't find evidence for.
That's right. That's true.
Yeah.
100% that is true.
Yeah. The co-main event brought Bogdan Guskov, sending Ryan Spann to hell for his third straight
Someone
defeat.
said after this that Anthony Smith was 3-0 now against.
Oh, God.
Ryan
So
Smith.
that's that. Hey, want to see a good Scorpion? Sorry for Ryan Spann. Tough loss. 3 in a row right there. Here's your Scorpion of the week, Luke. We haven't seen these in a while. And this guy probably
What the fuck are these called?
Your Scorpion of the week?
This device this guy's on?
No.
What the
no,
fuck was that?
The way that he just concussed himself and probably will never walk again. But look at this.
I gotta
Wow.
tell you, dude, people signing up for Darwin Awards, I'm all about it.
Oh, yeah. All right. Hockey jersey of the week. You know this guy from Eastern Europe? Suck me off?
Number 69?
Yes, exactly there. That great Kings defenseman. Wow, that's fantastic.
My MVP for the season.
We mentioned Golden Boy Boxing had a hell of a card on Saturday from Fresno. This is Virgil Ortiz Jr. in the main event against veteran Thomas Delorme.
The guy who's going to be fighting Tim Tszyu.
So look, Delorme is in the second half of his career, up in weight, but for Virgil Ortiz to only have 33 seconds of ring time in the last 3 years, to come out and blow this guy away, improve to 21-0 with 21 KOs, and afterwards say, I don't care if the time is right for the Tim Tszyu fight. I want to fight the best in the world.
I cannot wait for that fight.
Hell yeah, Virgil Ortiz Jr. Cannot wait to see. And you want to see Tim Tszyu's reaction to him getting the win? Let's listen.
Let's get it on.
That's me after Taco Bell.
Dude, that is going to be a war. 2 elite fighters, but they are going to go after it.
I can't wait.
That is going to be a hell of a fight. All right, couple more to round out here, Luke. Let's go to, I don't know, is this Mardi Gras? What do we got going on?
Oh my God!
Ooh.
Wait, what am I missing?
That's a Red Bull can thrown from the rooftops, and it hit a chick right in the face, Luke.
Man, I've seen some shit on Bourbon Street just like this.
Shout out to @Scumbag Academy for this video. That's
is this the Dana White School for the Media?
I don't know what city that is. Yeah, seriously, that's wild though. Damn. Your haircut of the week. Have you ever asked for the volcano head treatment?
Man, if you got a fucking science experiment as a haircut,
there's the Mentos and the volcano. There we go. And that's me, Luke, after checking out the strawweight rankings. I'm kidding. Men's strawweight, obviously.
Wait, who's number one?
Yeah, there you go. Luke, Anthony Joshua was in the gym working on his kickboxing skills. What do you make of this?
First of all, lionizing, or I should say rather not lionizing, but celebrating the history of Sparta is historically weird. But that aside, I can see why he boxed Ngannou and didn't fight him in MMA.
You don't think he's setting up for a PFL rematch against Ngannou in the smart cage? No? Okay.
Enter the smart cage.
Yes. Luke, finally, the sequel to Tiger Thick Whiskey is here.
If you're listening at home, there is a bottle of something here from, I don't know if it's some Asian country, and it's called Magical Penis Wine.
Yeah, that is, wow.
That's what they were having at that BKFC presser.
It'll give you a Ozempic face, I hear. that's something right there. All right, one more.
It'll give you
Luke.
some kind of O face.
This wasn't your fight of the week, but it did break out in the midst of this interview. Check this out.
So what is the craziest thing that's happened to you? Ever? And, oh, well, if you want to give me ever, college, whatever, just hit me with it.
So I went to Tulane for Halloween weekend.
Dude, I want to hear what happened at Tulane that weekend. What do you think?
Dude, they get busy.
2 chicks at one time?
They get busy at Tulane.
Wow, they just did right there.
They get busy at Tulane. My dad went to Tulane for a semester.
Oh, yeah.
Hated it.
Okay. Where did he attend college?
He ultimately went to St. John's in Annapolis, which is where this is true. The textbooks at St. John's are literally the original texts of the things you're studying. So, for example, if you were to study geometry, you would read Euclid. If you were studying Aristotle, you would read all of his direct text. You would not read anyone else's interpretation of it.
That explains how formal you are and rigid.
It does a little bit.
Yeah, there it is. That's your shit of the week. I hope you saw my feces. Hey, what an episode, right?
We did a lot.
Yeah.
They make us hurry in here because we have to switch out for old Pablo Torre.
He's going to find out in this chair right here. I crossed paths with him in the
He's
subway.
going to find out I've been crop dusted for 2.5 hours. That's what he's going to find out.
Oh, that's so good. Thank you.
He's like, why does this room smell like bologna and sadness? Well,
thank you to
LT
Battle
was in here.
Thank you to DraftKings. Thank you to our folks behind the glass, Long Island Luke, Ken. Who else back there? Jake Von Amsterdam. There's another dude back there. What's that guy's name? I forgot.
You know, for a show where we didn't have the budget we had before, we already have people lounging. Well, can I say Molkastop?
Yeah. Reminder, folks. And by the way, their kitchen, that's like from the future. That machine, that water machine.
You're just not used to working in a modern office.
No, I'm not. I can put caffeine in my water. It's great. So I've been drinking this whole time, Luke. It's Coach Craig Jones would love this. No Diddy. Luke, I want to remind the folks out there that this week we will be on the ground. Canelo versus Mungia in Las Vegas.
We fly out Wednesday, and then we'll be there for, he'll be there the remainder of the week. I'll be back a little bit early, but we'll have coverage nonstop.
PBC on Prime Video pay-per-view. It's going to be a big one. We will be there Thursday for a live, we'll shoot the times on social media, but on the Morning Combat YouTube channel on Thursday, a live Radio Row interview special. Manich, our old producer, will be with us on the road.
Yes, we're having one of the stalwarts of our bomb shelter series of the shows. He'll be joining us in Vegas to help us do that.
Thursday night, we will be recording a Room Service Diaries 1.0. When will that go live? Later?
Probably on Sunday.
Okay.
Probably
and
on
then
Sunday.
Friday, you know what time our live show begins from the Blue Wire Studios?
I think it's the same. I think it's going to be 11 a.m.
So
in the
this
East.
Friday, folks, 11 a.m. in the East, 8 a.m. Pacific time, we will be live on the Morning Combat channel with a live episode. Canelo versus Mungia, special guests.
And by the way, we'll preview UFC 301 as well. We'll have some fun with it.
It will be a great show, but this is the beginning. It's not going to be every Friday for now, but we told you we are building toward it. We thought it was going to be built in a day. It wasn't built in a day.
Rome is not built in a day.
It's going to take time, but we're getting there. Thank you for following us. We will get fan subs going because people are sharing what they want to send into fan subs to me, and I'm like, that's just brilliant.
Maybe we can bring it back on Friday. We'll see. It's possible.
So if we put the word out now for people to email the show at morningcombat@gmail.com.
That's right.
And if you begin to send in your fan subs this Friday, you want to commit to it?
I would love to do it. If we get enough of them, I tell you what, if we get enough fan subs, we'll do fan subs on Friday.
Okay,
How about
there's the bird call out to you. Cuckoo, cuckoo. Remember that from Above the Rim? When Tupac, they call him Birdie.
I dislike you.
All right, I got to pee really bad.
I bet you've been housing
like a
that water.
racehorse that hasn't been put down yet.
Here's the reminder: morningcombat.store. You can use the promo code LIVE10. You can follow us on all the social graphics. I think they already put that up.
Yeah, why don't you get 10% off? Tell RJ we said hi.
Tell RJ Dunkel Gangfuck that we sent you, and we are done for the day. So that's Brian Campbell. I'm Luke Thomas. Thanks to everyone. Again, one more reminder: we have 2 more MKs coming just this week. Tons of stuff. Be on the lookout.
Yeah.
We love you. BC, LT. This has been MK, and until next time. May all of your gains be loyal.